What's up, everyone? Welcome to a very special episode and the inaugural episode of Representing the Resin. Today, our guest is Mike HASHO, and we're very excited to have you, bro. Thank you so much for being the first guest.
Oh, bro, I wouldn't have it any other way. I appreciate it. This is an honor on me. Are you kidding?
Bro, you're very well known in certain circles, but in the more corporate spaces, I don't think a lot of people know about how much you've done in the space and how much you've been pushing things forward from the background. So, you know, before I jump into, and I've got a ton of questions about your current projects and what you're working on today, I want to take it back and learn more about Mike and you know, where you came from and what childhood was like. So why don't you take it back for us and tell us a little bit about that?
All right, quick. I'll do that quick because it's not that interesting of a story, but I was born and raised in Toronto, Kipling and Dixon area, literally at the corner of Kipling and Dixon. There's a series of like white, what are now like government buildings, like assisted living buildings, government funded buildings. There's like that strip there. So I grew up there. I went to a little tiny school named Transfiguration of Our Lord Catholic School. And man, just grew up a little skate rat, like 8 or 9 years old. Mm-hmm. Just fell in love with the sound of skateboarding.
How was that received? Like, you know, your parents were both immigrants to Canada.
Yes.
Well, you know, being the son of an immigrant.
What's that?
Being the son of an immigrant, how was skateboarding received when you wanted to pick that up as a hobby?
So, funny story, like when Instagram first popped off, I think my first name was like Kill Posy or something, like short form for my last name. But then instantly I became Useless Wooden Toy. So like people that really remember me or remember like the pre-Pharaoh days or the pre-HASHO days, everybody calls me Useless. And for like a good 5-year period, there would be people that would be like sort of outside my circle and be like, yo, why do you guys treat that guy like that? And they're like, who? And they're like, that guy, the guy you always call Useless. And they're like, yo, that's our boy. That's his name. Like it's actually Useless Wooden Toy. But so a useless wooden toy is like what your immigrant parents, you know, especially in my circle in the late 80s, would say, why are you playing with that useless wooden toy? And it always stuck with me. Like, it's funny how I was having this talk the other day with somebody. I was like, it's funny how I'm literally at that age now where I'm physically was on the outside of cool for so long. And now inevitably skaters are in the Olympics. Like skateboarding and hip hop culture, let's just put like quick one, way off topic, but quick one. If you really trace it back, bro, skateboarding and hip hop culture never asked for each other, never needed each other. It's like the perfect relationship because they're forever married. Like the beginnings of both will forever be married as imprinted as like rock bands and fucking jamming in the garage in California. And like, so is New York and hip hop. And don't let California confuse you. All the love in the world to Cali. LA tatted on my, but I get it. But there's two sides to that story. And the reality is they're both curators of culture. That's what guys like me and you are, whether it's generational or not. Like a famous place to skate is obviously MACBA, which is like a library famous in Barcelona. My bad, I'm super high.
No, that's all good.
There's this famous skate spot. Any skater will know MACBA. But the reality is if you ask certain people, back in the day, it was actually a really negative place because it's a beautiful place. The people are beautiful, etc. The skateboarders are welcoming. It's just a home of skateboarding. But they hated skateboarders so much, like the people that lived in that area, they would pour bleach out their windows. So like it was a rule, like you didn't look up, like people lost their sight. Skateboarders were hated. The stories are crazy. Like, so to see everything come so far, and it's funny that I always end up talking about skateboarding in any interview I've ever done because it was traveling to Cali all that time that made me fall in love with the weed culture in a way different way than it was ever represented in Canada. Not in a negative way, just so different.
Yeah.
Like you're literally in a different world. You're in a different climate. It's so far ahead. Like, it's so weird because like we love the term legacy in Canada. We love that shit. And companies base like extensive amounts of marketing and money and effort and time on almost proving that legacy. And the reality is like, especially for somebody like me, if we're considering me like a door crasher, hash maker, whatever it is, an original, man, I'm going to tell you straight up, like I've said before, like I bit my whole style from Cali. I saw it coming. I'm a super fan of marketing. I grew up working for Bill. I grew up in the skateboard industry. Failed skateboarder, turned, I'm going to change the kids' lives. I'm going to get inside. I'm going to be the best rep in the world. I'm going to sell I'm going to fucking, everything I ever did, I was like, I'm going to be the best. I'm going to reinvent how people look at that job. But when it comes to being an athlete, I'm not going to the paint with LeBron. You know what I mean?
How early in age was that realization made, HASHO? Like with skateboarding, it was definitely 18. And 18. Was it an injury or was it just
No. It was straight up like, I'm not this good. Everybody around me is progressing way faster than me. That's it, straight up. And I realized really early that what a lot of skateboarders didn't have, especially most of the talented ones, was much of like a personality. There used to be a thing, I don't know if it still exists, I haven't been in the industry for years, but we used to like joke around about a kook test. Every new kid, every Johnny kickflip that was like, oh, you got to see this kid, you got to see this kid. Stores would like call the distributors and be like, you got to put him on this tour. You guys are doing an Ontario thing. We throw our kid on the tour. And every so often, the TJ Rogers, the John Cosentinos, the Brandon Del Biancos, oh my God, there's so many. Please, no disrespect to anybody that may be watching this. I'm not forgetting you. The Wade Desarmos, Spencer Hamiltons. Listen to me. Canada has Skateboarder of the Year from Thrasher Magazine. Endless amount. We are fire in every top rappers in the world. We own music right now. So this isn't a disrespect to anybody, but there was a period in time where like you had to pass a test. It didn't matter about money. It didn't matter how good you were. If you had to spend a day in a van traveling 8, 10, 12 hours with dudes that have been on this team, they're the cornerstones. They're this team. What they say goes. The rep, the guy driving, the guy with the money, he's an employee. At the end of the day, as much as I was loved or respected, I was an employee. I was a big enough fuck up away from being like, you just cost us more money than you're worth. It was at that exact moment in 2008 where I was in California and I said, yo, making hash is 10 times more fun than being on this side of skateboarding. And I've been skateboarding and thinking about skateboarding and living it and breathing it for 28 years. It's all I know. No education.
What were you specifically doing? Like after 18 in those roles in skateboarding, like were you planning the tours? Were you the tour manager?
Yes. So I worked for a company called S&J Sales that held, at the time, some of the biggest accounts in Canada. Element Skateboards, Deluxe Skateboards, which is like Real, Antihero, Spitfire, Crooked, Thunder Trucks, Venture Trucks. Like I was working for like an offshoot of Billabong. It was a time, bro. It was amazing. But that time came to, my now wife used to say, you can't pay we're never going to buy a house or pay a mortgage with free t-shirts and skateboards. So as much as this is beautiful and you've lived your dream, like at what point, kind of like Mike, at what point do you grow up?
So I want to pause and rewind a bit because I want to know, you talked about making that realization in 2008 that what you're doing.
No, 98. I realized in 98 I would never be good enough to keep up with my friends.
But when you saw hash making and decided to
2008.
So 2008, you're in California and you see that. But I want to rewind behind that and talk about, your first experiences with cannabis. Were those intertwined with skateboarding? I would assume
100%. First time I ever smoked weed. sitting on a curb in front of my buddy's house, skating, sat down, homie rolls by, 2-3 grades older. I think we were in grade 9. I was in grade 9. I did not smoke weed till my first year of high school and almost towards the end because it was coming summer. But remember, I still thought in my head I was going to be an athlete. Like, I hate school. I can't do this shit. I dream about skateboarding. Like, you're just a kid with a dream. You know what I mean? Until you realize, like, yo, it's like every kid in Ontario grows up wanting to play hockey.
Yeah.
But there comes a day with hockey where you're like, yo, this shit ain't fun no more. This ain't house league. I'm not the best. And that dude's way bigger than me. He's angry as fuck. Why is that motherfucker so angry? Bitch, you're 14. How are you so angry? And then you're like, dude, I don't want to be angry. I don't have to hype myself up on the way to the arena and wear the same jacket as everybody. And please, again, no disrespect. If that's what you love, bro, if you love knitting, I fuck with it. But it wasn't for your boy. So you know what I mean? The whole, like, we have to wear suits and ties to the arena. It's like, what is this? The fuck do I need to wear this for? And then everybody's like, I'm gonna kill that guy tonight. I was like, yo, I don't like this. My dad was like, but you're so good at hockey. I'm like, no, this sucks. 14 years old, I'm already trying to, like, kill people and shit. Fuck this. I was just as good at skateboarding as I was at hockey. Basically, I would have never had a future. Dude, when we started hitting, I was like, yo, next person that hits me, I'm fucking swinging on you. That's not how this is going. I'm waiting for you outside. You fucking hit me. Like, it just bothered me. I was like, I'm not about this. And I remember that, like, May, June, hockey had just finished or whatever the fuck was happening. School was ending. Homie in a couple grades up was like, skating by, and he said, what are you guys doing? We're like, chilling, whatever. He's like, come skate. So we went to skate. We went to skate at a post office. He pulled out a spliff, and I happened to be standing there right with him. Like, my buddies were right there, but I was beside him. And he's like, you want some? And I was like, yeah, fuck yeah. Took it. Thank God there was a McDonald's right next door. Thank God, because, bro, I was so high. Like, first time, I remember walking home up the street and my buddy's like, yo, just skate with me. And I'm like, not a chance, bro. My legs were jello. Like, I tried to push and I was like, oh, shit. Oh, it was the best. It was the best. Because my mom is so innocent. Like, I don't think she's ever smoked or anything in her life. So I went home knowing full well I could just be like, oh, I don't feel well. Like, I had an easiest out. I was never going to get caught. But she's a cooker. She's old, an Egyptian lady, front door, you know?
Yeah.
So you couldn't walk into my house without smelling like soup or like my family loved sausages. So everything always smelled like sausages. But that was a dope night, bro. Because I went to McDonald's, got some shit, skated a little bit, found out my legs didn't exist, walked home and
so
good food.
What was your relationship with cannabis like after that? Was it an immediate thing where you became habitual with it, or did that slowly take some time?
No, that took no time because bad thing is I'm super, like, easily, what's that word? I have, like, an addictive personality.
Yeah.
So I do everything really hard. Yeah. You know?
So did that cause any issues for you in school or with your parents, or was that pretty easy to manage?
No, I graduated high school, first try or whatever you want to call it. Like, I probably didn't kill it the way, like, I could have, but just, like, I grew up in the 90s, right? So, like, I don't want to tell a long story about, like, oh, there was no internet. Like, I don't want to sound like a fucking dinosaur, but, like, I just grew up in a different time where there really wasn't a big story for me to tell you. Like, I wasn't a bad guy, and there was clearly defined roles in the 80s and 90s. Nowadays, everybody has this insane sense of pride because of the internet. Because you almost train yourself every day to feel littler than somebody and attain that and achieve that and chase that. In my generation, there was genuine mentors. Like there was people that cared. Like for real, in my generation, we got taught like, if you're ever in trouble, you look for a police officer. Bitch, now they're fucking plainclothes.
Mm-hmm.
Now they're gang squad. Now they're unit. Now when you approach them, they already have their hand on their gun. There's no more approach. I would never teach my kid to approach a cop. Unless he was like 5 and lost. 10 and over, don't approach a fucking cop.
Yeah. Yeah.
Especially where I was from. And I learned that the hard way. Why are you walking through this building? What do you mean? It's raining and my building's over there. Walk around. Like,
yeah.
Okay. Different times, right? So you were always held accountable on the spot for anything. If you had to learn a hard life lesson, it happened on the spot.
Mm-hmm. I haven't had a chance to talk to a lot of guys in the skate scene, but I have unknowingly, until I interviewed them, talked to a lot of guys who were really heavily in the snowboarding scene, like Addison, and I'm trying to think of a couple of other guys, but there's 3 or 4 of them if I really thought about it. And they were one comment that a common thread that their stories all had was that snowboarding scene had a lot of packs moving through it. Within that world of skateboarding, like, were you exposed to that traditional market cannabis trade, or was it not till later on that you sort of?
No. So the skateboard and I was third party related to snowboarding, inevitably just through my position in the industry, and reminded at the time, the industry was quite small. Skateboarding is a niche thing at its best. Okay, we're in the Olympics, etc. You give that all to the athlete. When you want to talk about legacy and breaking down doors, and skateboarders never asked anybody for anything, boom, Olympics. Let's skip a whole shitload of time and Tony Hawk making people household names and millionaires off riding a useless wooden toy. Thank you, Tony, and fuck anybody who shits on that man. Fuck you, idiot. Anyways, so it's crazy because they're hand in hand because the money is so small in skateboarding, but the love is so genuine. So when a skateboarder or a team or somebody respected comes to your city, etc., the first thing you do is inundate them with like gifts. You always get weed. But here's the thing about a skateboarder. If you don't drink and you make that clear one time, 9 times out of 10, they leave you the fuck alone. You're still the homie. You just don't drink. He's the homie that doesn't drink. He's the homie that does art. He's the homie that paints his nails. He's the homie that's HASH. He's the homie that's this. He's the homie that's that. That's the beauty of skateboarding. It's like Lord of the Flies and the UN all in one, and nobody will ever let anybody govern any other way. It's been passed down from OG to OG to OG to OG, and we can name all those dudes. Thank God, a lot of those dudes are still alive. A lot of our legends are still alive. Again, I don't even know how we got on that, but shout out skateboarding, shout out hip hop culture, rock culture, garage bands, blah, blah, blah. Shout out the 70s and 80s for potentially creating some of the best music and generations of everything that there are, street culture, everything.
Talking about the connection between skateboarding, snowboarding, and traditional market illicit activities.
Okay, I went off on a tangent.
Yeah, that's fine. I mean, there's a passion there. My question was, were you exposed to that side of things, and is that how you led to hash making? But my other question for you is the skateboarding industry is very tied to tagging and street art. And I know that's something that, you're very prominent with you now. And, every time I see you and you're hanging out, you're always putting your on something. And I think it's super awesome. Was that something that was present for you in the early days, or were you just an observer at that point?
So I'm one of those dudes that would always write on his grip tape or his shoes since I was a kid. It was just part of the culture. I saw it done. I was like, oh my God, your grip looked way cooler than that. And back in the day, it was always like a memorial thing, like a rest in peace or something like that. But if I'm giving full credit, it all started with a movie called Kids. Have you ever heard of it? Or, geez, dude,
I'm trying to think.
Oh, you got to see Kids.
Oh
my God, it'll change your life. You should see it today. Like, there's really no reason for you not to, and it will straight up change your life. You'll call me later tonight and be like, dude, what the fuck? How did I not know that existed? But it's heavy, so get ready.
All right.
It's heavy. It's not like a Disney movie. It's about skate culture, and growing up as like a street kid in New York. It basically, like, if you've ever wondered what it would be like to be a young, poor skateboarder running around living crazy, sex, drugs, B&Es, like, based on true stories. The fucked up thing about that movie is some of the characters in the movie only got their spots because the movie was supposed to be filled with real skateboarders, like New York skateboarders. And then a couple actors got in because those dudes actually went to jail. You should look up the history of Kids. It's fucking amazing. Amazing.
I'll definitely check that out. So you saw this movie and was it a certain scene or was it just the overall message of the movie and it inspired you to start, moving in a different way or how'd that work?
So, yeah, like it kind of, this movie basically, it kind of touches on both your questions about the tagging. It literally shows how the cultures are hand in hand. And it's like, whether you want to talk about it on like an industry scale level, like were there packs going around from BC to this or whatever, any industry companies, but it was more like weed was always a currency. And basically how it played out for me was through that currency, you always met the guy that was the plug because he'd usually be hooking up like the DC team or the Element team. Like, so you'd inevitably meet somebody, and how it happened for me in California was I met somebody that brought me a chunk of hash in parchment, and it was like what we would consider like a really good full spec run today. And it was the first time I'd ever seen whitish hash. And I was like, what is this? And he's like, you asked for hash. And I'm like, yeah. Like, so what's this? And then he explained it. And I was like, I can make this with my bubble bags. And he's like, yeah, it's about how you grow. And I'm like, oh, but I don't grow. Like, he's like, oh, then you're fucked. That's the first thing I ever heard about making live rosin. It was, oh, you don't grow? Then you're fucked. Which is why I always say to people when it comes up in an intelligent conversation, I always say, you can't put me on a level, regardless of how much earlier I started doing it or whatever. Guys like Canna Russ, Living Earth Organics, Van Span, like Slurm, especially Canadian Dabs. There's so many guys, and I promise you, man, I'm not leaving anybody out on purpose. I'm 42, I'm old, I'm tired, I'm high, my birthday, I'm just everything. But there's Pineapple Reserve, there's so many killers. There's so many killers in Canada. Shout out Canada.
How long did you grow up smoking hash, or was it a flower in the transition?
I'm one of those kids that, like, when you called your dealer in high school, you just said, like, do you have hash or do you have wheat or wheat? And it was either like, when you said weed, it could be like straight brick cess, like good fucking cess. But like, we're talking like 95, 96, 97, 98, right? So your brothers, your uncles, all hash smokers. It's weird how it was like accepted. Like if you were a construction worker or like you had like jobs with your hands, like smoking weed wasn't cool. But if you were mixing some hash into a cigarette at lunch and having a beer and eating 2 sandwiches, like that's just what they did. So
I think that's a really cool observation, and I have observed that definitely more so in Eastern Canada than any. In fact, only in Eastern Canada and in the Atlantic provinces, but like a much more higher level of social acceptability to the masses if you're mixing a little hash with your tobacco, But if you're mixing hash with flour and smoking that, no. That's you're a wild man.
That's hash and flour. That's why I'm a little high.
No, I think that's a really cool observation. So like, was flour ever present? Like I know now you like your grabba and your flour. Is that a newer thing, or did that happen?
No, I'm gonna have to be honest with you and say I've probably been smoking tobacco with my weed since I started smoking weed.
Yeah,
and I almost find it hard to smoke like the best paper, whether it's an element or a raw, whatever conversation you want to have. I really honestly find it hard to smoke without, unfortunately, this is a backwood, which I don't really like, but I do like untouched grabba leaf, like just cured, Fronto grabba, just unflavored, untouched. There's actually a company in the US that's prominent called Grabba Leaf. If you can get your hands on it, do it. It's fire.
Yeah, you get the full leaf.
And this company is absolute fire. They have a green pack and a brown pack. The brown is a little bit thinner, a little bit more for the advanced roller. The green is still thin and gorgeous, but there's parts of the leaf that could get a bit thick and, anyways, I'm not doing a free ad for them. Go ahead.
So let me ask you, just as I don't smoke blunts anymore, but I used to, and I found that when I stopped smoking blunts, my flavor profiles opened up into fruits, because when I was smoking really heavy and tobacco, those fruits weren't coming through for me as much. So like, do you find yourself gravitating towards the gas and funk over those?
I won't smoke. I hate to say this because I'm the first person to say I think everything's a hybrid, but the limonene, haze, leaning strains, I absolutely can't palate. It's that distinct for me. So
is it always like that, or was
always.
it smoke too
Always.
much? Okay.
It's almost like it might be an allergy. Like I despise them. The second I smell them, I'm like, oh God, no. So I think for me specifically, it's one of those things where I prefer hash so much to weed that I would pretty much, if I had a constant stream of high-end import hash and I could make my own live rosin out of my own grow and I had that much time, then I'd be retired on a farm. I'd be making my own wine. I'd be self-sufficient. I'd be living my dream.
Yeah.
Fast forward to reality. If I could pay for really good import hash and always have it, I probably would smoke flower. I mean, I'll be honest, I hope I don't crush anybody, 3 to 5 times a month, just to enjoy a nice blunt and some flower. But otherwise, I would dab and smoke tobacco and hash.
Yeah.
That's what I would do. Mini Frenchie cannoli, whatever. I don't know. Like, again, he was my hero growing up. So
he would like chat with you and just like throw tobacco in his hand, like throw some hash.
All the time.
Do the
all
flip
the time.
Fucking twist up. Like he was a G with it.
I've had dinner with him, and I'm so blessed to have got to spend like personal time with him, like outside of a conference or just at a table, like a couple guys. And the dude was, my God, a real loss, man.
Yeah, man. Nobody's as passionate.
It's impossible.
You can't beat Frenchie's passion.
Impossible.
He'll jump up on a table at the drop of a hat to talk to emphasize something he was telling you. Like,
he'll live in the jungle. He'll go to every country. Oh, not he will. He did.
He did, yeah.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah. I mean, rest in peace and rest in power. That guy touched a lot of people, and his name will ring out. Like, well, the whole community.
In only positive ways.
Yeah. So I want to talk about the moment or your transition when your focus moved from the skate community to the solventless community. You talked about that decision that you made in 2008. What did that look like?
It looked like being really frustrated with a lifelong love and career in something that you kind of realized you've now hit the ceiling of. There's just not going to be a sales rep in the skateboard industry making $250,000 a year. at that point, the company will fire you and hire somebody for 65, 70,000, so it's never going to happen. So it got to the point where like, I realized I was miserable and bringing a ton of value to a company that was making me miserable. And it wasn't necessarily their fault, as like, I can't blame a certain person. I was more just sick of the industry. I was driving an hour to work, an hour and a half back in traffic. And it just bittered me on the entire industry. Like I didn't touch a skateboard for a decade. I probably gave everything away. I had nothing. Like I fuck skateboarding. That's how I felt the day I left. And
there was there was bitterness to
for sure. Yeah, there was. Listen, it's a tough industry.
Yeah.
And shit always flows downhill. So if people are having a tough time, you're always it's eventually going to trickle down. And I was like a middleman. You know what I mean? Like being a good sales rep is cool, but like at the end of the day, you're going to catch it. And it was just tiring. And you realize I'm never going to make more than, at the time, like 51 to 55,000 a year was like, holy shit, you make that much? And I was like, that's not even going to what do you mean? I'm broke.
Yeah. Yeah, that's not going to.
Got a bunch of free t-shirts and fucking what? Anyways, so look, every young man in the world is going to go through this. So you can hear what a guy like me is saying and be like, oh, he's bitter. Or you could hear what a guy like me is saying and be like, damn, like, am I going to get there? So here's my advice. Like, do everything you can to figure out what your definition of happiness is and always have a piece of it in your life. Always have a hobby is basically what I'm saying. A hobby, something you can do, just you, and love. So that became Hash for me, because meeting that guy that day, thinking on it for like a year and a half, I saw that same guy like, I think only one more time after that. But like that led me to coming back to California, meeting people in the weed industry, Instagram popping off, going to Colorado to train, going to California to meet guys like Poof from Resin and pick his brain and be this annoying dude from Canada who's like referred through a friend. Like at the time, very few people had a connection to anybody in California. Like we're talking like what, 20, by all this time, I was already making hash. So I probably met Poof in like 2015, after I'd already been to Colorado and trained, etc., all through a guy named Duke or Toasty. I don't know, like whatever. Shout out Duke. That guy's the pluggo. But he was already selling like Team Japan glass. Like there were so many people in, and again, how cultures always come back around. Like the glass culture also played a huge role in my decision to be like, look at my now wife and be like, look, we have $7,400 to our name. Hear me out. If I take $3,300 and buy this rosin press from Colorado, the dude said I could come out and sleep on his couch and he would take me to his lab and train me in his lab. And she's like, are you fucking mental? I'm like, no. Hear me out. Sarah, there's this stuff called live rosin. Sarah, listen. And then I start showing her on Instagram and I'm like, yo, you got to meet Ryan. So I call Ryan on the phone. I'm like, listen, he's normal, right? Like he's not going to rape me. I'm good. He's not going to drug me. Like he has a wife. He's got 2 dogs. We have 2 dogs. We're the same age. I'm like selling this. A week later, I'm on a flight to fucking Colorado, sleeping on homeboy's couch for 7 days with his dog that's 90 pounds. Okay? Love dogs to death. Shout out Ryan. You started me, bro. But yo, I was willing to take my whole life, leave my family, go sleep on a couch, and learn how to make hash out of liquid nitrogen.
Yeah.
Because it was faster, more efficient. I could get it easier than I could get bulk ice and a floor drain. It was actually easier for me to do liquid nitrogen extraction because it evaporated. I didn't need a floor drain. All I needed was a tile floor that I could ISO after because it was going to make a fucking mess. But at that point in my head, I'm like, okay, now I can make hash out of sift screens, I could make hash with pantyhose and a thin enough like salad bowl. Like I've done everything.
What was the tack? Like what was the early tack? Just like dry ice in the bag, just shake the bag, or what?
No, I never used dry ice. I used liquid nitrogen. So I'd put like a 90 bag in a 120 bag, and then I'd put like poly that you would use to like finish a room, like over insulation, like clear poly over a stainless steel table. And then I put like a big catch bucket that was like 6 inches deep, and I'd line that with poly, and then I'd put maybe like 3 ounces of weed, fresh frozen, at the bottom of the 90 bag, which I was holding both bags in my hand. And then I'd pour a cup of liquid nitrogen and shake. I'd literally just like vibrate my body. I never wanted to go like this. Bro, listen to me. I'm going to tell you that if you really want to get technical, I'll tell you who was around back then too.
Let's do it.
A long list, so I don't want to out anybody. But listen, I was so sensitive that I wouldn't shake the bags the way I was trained. I would vibrate my body, like starting at my core, because I just wanted the first shakes to be like the finest heads. Then I'd hit it hard with more LN2 and shake into a separate bucket. And I'm telling you, bro, I made some really, really fucking fire rosin out of liquid nitrogen and fresh frozen material. And it was a lot easier than finding places to buy a shit ton of ice and somebody that would let you literally basically soak a room, ruin their drywall. Like it was tough in Ontario in 2000, what the fuck ever. I don't even know. 14.
Was there a brand before Pharaoh?
Yeah.
What was that?
My first brand was called Empire Extracts.
Oh.
So that was the name of my first ever company.
Was that with the LN2?
No, this was pre that. This was when I was making shatter. I was making the sickest shatter. Toronto had a lot of my shatter. And my first skateboard company ever was when I was 16. I started a skateboard company that ended up getting taken by West 49.
What was it called?
Empire Skateboards. So when I left the industry and I started my first like extraction company selling to black market dispensaries, shout out Amy Anonymous, I would not be sitting here today without you, straight up. Anyways, yeah, the good old days, man. And so, yeah, I did a lot of open blast shatter. I was like one of the first people, in Ontario to have like a big AI oven. And
why don't you talk a little bit about, a lot of US viewers see a lot of West Coast Canadian cannabis culture.
Yeah.
And they tend to assume that that's how it was everywhere. And it was
much different there.
Ontario had its own thing.
We're Bay Street.
Yeah.
We're Bay Street.
So
we're not the creators. Come on, let's just call it what it is. There's some great growers. Listen, if I'm offending you, well, there's nobody in here live, but you might want to stop listening now. Just saying. I'm a fan of facts.
Talk to us a little bit about
provable facts. And the fact is, Toronto has always been the Bay Street of this community. We are great sellers. We have tons of capital. We're great at logistics. We're great at importing and exporting. We are great at being the Bay Street of Canada. And that's why Bay Street's here. But the culture, God bless it, comes from Vancouver. You can't talk to a guy in Vancouver that's in his 50s and 60s. Look, it's no secret. You go to certain parts of Vancouver, it's ingrained in families' generations. Their grandfathers grew, their fathers grew. Like, it's fucking their culture straight up. That is not how I saw it or what I was ever exposed to as a single individual. I'm speaking for myself in Ontario. Now, I knew many basement growers in Ontario. Some guys had 70 lighters, 80 lighters in a in their dad's farm, or they had this building in Scarborough. But those guys were very far and few between back then. Like meeting a plug like that in Ontario back then, you met a fucking goat. You met a fucking unicorn. Vancouver was like, it is what it is. Please, like, give them their flowers. A lot of people in Ontario bought some beautiful homes and cars off knowing the right people in Vancouver. So let's please take our hats off to what gave Canada like their name in cannabis.
But there was also a thriving dispensary scene in Ontario, in Toronto, like, you know,
huge,
you know, that you're alluding to with Amy, you know, I haven't really had the pleasure of connecting with, but, you know, I know played a big role in that. So, you know, what was that scene like the club scene?
Insane. When you know, it's famously like the cafes, and which came a bit later on. But there was a point in Toronto where, you know, you would walk through certain neighborhoods at a certain time of day, and brokers would just be crossing streets at different points. And you're like, fuck, he got there first. Fuck, they have a huge budget. I knew I shouldn't have missed the early fucking train into the city. And you're driving to Yorkdale, like staring at the clock. It was a race to people's money. And I don't know how to say this without sounding a little bit conceited, but like, I just find that at least at the time, so many people were worried about like remaining faceless and nameless. And I was like, yo, I'm going to go the other way. I'm not just going to be a broker. I'm going to be a broker, but I have a brand. And I'm going to make sure that I treat this like a business. I am going to be on the fucking subway at fucking 8 a.m. every day. Even if nobody's open, I'll sit at a Starbucks. But I know the 3 dispensaries I'm going to go to before 11 a.m. I'm going to drop off samples of the new shatter. I'm going to sell them a couple packs. I'm going to go to the next one. I'm going to take $7,000 or $10,000 from them. I'm going to take $7,000, and let's call it what it is. That's what everybody was doing. But then Instagram came around real fucking hard, and hit hard. And that's when I was like, yo, everybody's so about the black market. California's black market looks like a candy store. I'm out here putting my hash in #1 coin envelopes from fucking, you know, Staples?
Uline, yeah.
Uline? I was going to Staples and just buying like 8 boxes of fucking #1 coin envelopes. Bro, there was a time if anybody has any, please fucking find me somehow, because I will buy some off you. I used to hand draw every pack, a different design by hand for like the first few hundred coin envelopes. I wish I could find one now, but
that's very cool.
That's how far it's come. And I think the only good decision I ever made, well, I made a couple, but was attributing the fact that like, yo, people, I would look around so early and be like, yo, why is everybody on their phone? Like, I didn't grow up with that, right?
Yeah.
It was the generation after me. So they were on Instagram like, whew. And I only had an account because like this girl I worked with was like, yo, you need to get one. And I was like, really? It's that cool? She's like, it's gonna be cool. And I'm like, all right, got it. I think I called myself Kill Posy because the movie Kill Bill was like my thing at the time. And that was it. As soon as I started seeing that first 2-3 months of Instagram, it was actually Rob Dyrdek that was like, once Rob Dyrdek, for some reason, to me, for some odd reason, when Rob Dyrdek joined Instagram, I was like, yo, he's probably getting paid. Why is he talking about this app?
Yeah.
Like, no, he's getting paid to do this. I don't know if that's true or not, but something about attributing him to it, I was like, yo, I got to be on Instagram. Saw what Instagram was doing, and like, I was like, I can make money off this. In comes Kahuna Farms. Realized I wasn't a real farm, so I didn't want to have farm in my name. And then came Pharaoh Solventless. That's the first Pharaoh, was Pharaoh Solventless. And I made rosin coins that I literally stole from resin extracts. They were them and Extracted Colorado. I saw Resin coins, and I was like, yo, I knew both of these people.
Yeah.
And I was like, yo, I'm literally just gonna bite their shit. Straight up. Learn how to cure it in a coin, learn how to make it my own, learn how to do it here in Canada with straight up like much less access to material.
Yeah.
Like, you gotta think, at the time I started, try telling a grower to freeze his crop.
Yeah, you're not.
Are you fucking high?
What year was Pharaoh
Solventless?
Yeah.
14, 15?
Yeah. No, you wouldn't have gotten anybody doing it then. That would have been
No. Shout out what actually ended up becoming Pharaoh Farms when I, for the first time ever, took on partners. And they literally believed in it so hard that they had one grow in BC, turned it into 3, and then kind of listened to like my craziness at the time. And he's like, if I take the bottom 10% of every plant and it's on this schedule, then every 5 weeks, and we did that for 2 years.
Yeah.
You know, to what the world may remember as Pharaoh Farms.
Yeah.
We did that shit for, it was crazy, man. Like, it was the best time of my life.
When I mean, I remember the impact it had for sure. The
brand.
Immediate success, like coming back from Colorado, coming off of Ryan's couch, back with the machine. You see, your wife is probably looking at you with a bit of trepidation.
Every one of my friends, I had my closest friends be like, yo, listen, bro, you're having a kid. I didn't want to, we know you, I had those conversations. Like, we know you're different, bro. We get it. We love you, bro. Like, you're an artist, you're a skateboarder. Like, I'm having this conversation at like 30 plus years old, the same conversations I had with people. Oh, okay, cool. You ride a skateboard. Yeah, that's so sweet. No, but look, I'm not going to have to pay to go to California. Like, they think I'm good. Like, oh, that's so cute. I hope that happens for you. Like, I was having those conversations again. And I'm like, no, guys, listen, I swear to God, listen, they're not wrong in California, man. Listen, okay, watch. It's hash. It is. It's the same shit. Take away 80% of the contaminant. And just don't put it with tobacco, because then it's not going to burn. And they're like, okay, yo, listen, just sell packs, bro. You have a kid coming. Look, bro, I'll spot you. And I'm like, no, okay, yes, fine. But hear me out, like, guys. And they weren't saying like this in a negative way. It was my homies that would take their shirt off their back being like, yo, we've seen you make some fucked up decisions. All right? And we think this one's a bad one. And so, you know who you are. But anyways, like, look, they came from the best place. And at the time, their advice was very solid and came from a very solid place. Mm-hmm. Like, bro, stop doing this. Put your time into selling packs and put money away before this shit all goes to hell and nobody can sell packs anymore. And look what happened.
Yep.
So they were coming from a great place. But I had started this years prior already. Remember? I'd kind of planted this in my head in 2008. I'm like, yo, hash is dope. Should I do this? Like, fuck. Like, took another, 2 years or whatever, but it is what it is.
And so, were you met with an immediate, did you put it out and it was immediately just met with love and adoration, or did it take education, and was there a period of uncertainty before you really got traction with that?
You know what? I'm not going to lie. I think the world was just ready for something new. And by the time I was ready to put out a product, I had jars, I had somewhere I was working full time, et cetera, et cetera. Pharaoh Solventless was making its name. The green markets had really started popping off. The illicit, farmers market for weed in the back of a became really culturally important. I got great timing, and I'm somebody that doesn't lose easy. I lose with class, but I don't lose easy. So I was willing to legit ride it out, because at this point, I was like, fuck, I've dedicated so much time and money to this. What if I'm right? Like, what if this does pop off and people do accept it the way California is starting to accept it? And this whole time, glass culture was growing. It was just growing slow in Canada. And then a couple guys really took it to the next level. And I was like, yo, I'm going to ride this glass culture out. Then I fell in love with glass and blah, blah, blah. But thank God rosin became more than just that thing that was a once in a while experiment. Because in the days of making flower rosin, you really had to sell the fact that, like, look, we don't use BHO, so no matter what, you don't worry. If it's purged, like that word purged sold me so many grams of hash at the beginning, because people would be like, oh, there's no like accelerants or butane. I'm like, no. This is just weed, like your dad's hash, but I filter it 100 times more.
Yeah.
That's all. And the people that could grasp it in the moment and were like, fuck, man, $65. And I'm like, look, I know. Shatter's like $35. I get it, bro. But look. This comes in a jar. And there's a sticker on it. And bro, I just did everything California did until somebody cooler than me in Canada made the decision that like rosin was cool. They were going to back it. And Pharaoh was the man. But it's like, yo, I've been here for 6 years, but thank you.
How long were you rocking with flower rosin until that market dried up?
Till the day it dried up.
Like how long a period in time was that?
Whew. Fuck, it's so hard. What are we in 2023 almost, huh?
Yeah. It's just I have
to say like 2013, 2014.
Yeah.
That's probably when I made my last gram of flower rosin.
Yeah. There's always that period in every market where flower rosin is acceptable. And I think it's interesting to see how long that period is in each market. And I think it's like an interesting indicator of the sophistication of the market. The longer the period of acceptable flower rosin, the less sophistication in the market. And
so should I put out there, or am I being blasphemous right now? Should I put out there that I love shatter?
No, I mean, put it out, man. But why do you love shatter?
Love it. Properly made shatter, like fully properly with love. Bro, it's some of the best extract you're going to have. For me personally, I have asthma. Always have since a kid, always carry a puffer. To be dead honest, some of the worst experiences I've ever had dabbing were trying somebody's rosin, because for so long, I just wanted acceptance. And I was somebody that was always judged very harshly on anything I did or said. I took that on myself. I decided to put a face behind my brand. I decided to be the guy. I'm like, I'm not just going to be a brand. I'm going to be the guy. So it opens you up to, unfortunately, some like sad times. And the internet is a tough place for everybody. Don't think it doesn't hurt. Don't think I'm not somebody's son or somebody's dad or anyways. So what were we talking about?
I mean, I want to talk about where, like, how your tech was improving throughout that, like from we were talking about flower rosin, and then we were talking about the difference in markets, and then we went on to a tangent. But
I'm sorry.
That's all right, dog. It happens. What I want to talk about is, like, were you ever part of the forums? Were you where were you getting the improvements after you came back from Colorado? Like, was that continued lines of communication with some peer group, or what was pushing you to evolve?
Like, was it my ADHD?
You were setting the trends in Canada. So was it you pushing the envelope in your lab, or were you collaborating with dudes south of the border and kind of talking?
No, so there was never much collaboration. It was always kind of a struggle at the beginning, because there was a lot less information, especially at hand, right? So you kind of had to have personal relationships with people. And at the beginning, I had more personal relationships with people across the border than I did in Canada. In Ontario specifically, I can literally say like it was only me. In BC, who I remember being around and like sort of stepping into the light and saying we're a company, we're a hash making company. There was obviously Bubble Man. And the closest thing I can remember is Heavenly Days. Mm-hmm. I don't know if they're still around or what's going on with Heavenly Days. Allegedly, years ago, they used to make some great hash in the illicit market. Mm-hmm. But you really never knew what was up because, you know, sometimes it feels like it's BC versus everybody.
Yeah.
Rightfully so, because a lot of their culture gets stolen and appropriated. And for a long time, it was always kind of like really hard to reach out to anybody and talk tech. Everybody, if they weren't rude, was definitely very protective. So if you wanted to learn or get better, you had to put a lot of your money at stake and you had to spend a lot of time in the lab. I don't know how long it took me to realize that if I just invested in some baking racks with the plastic cover and a zipper, I can control kind of humidity and temperature in a room. And then I can kind of even more so control how things cure on a baking rack because I can literally temp gun the floor, record it at 7 p.m., 11 p.m., 2 a.m., and I'll know through the night if I need to leave X tray at the bottom closer to the cold than at the top because of where they look like in the stage of their life. Like we had nothing but in here. And then there was kind of like even the hash wars at the beginning where like nobody liked each other. And thank God we're fucking over that. Are we? I don't know. But like, again, if anybody listens to anything I said, understand this. Shout out all the dudes that I bought tons and still to this day buy all Canadians. Living Earth.
Yeah.
Canarus, your hash maker's favorite hash maker. Vanspan. Everybody. High Fidelity. Again,
all those
guys. I wish I could literally just throw flowers at the screen and scream Canada like all day, but it's a testament because I'm telling you right now, our hash, there is certain people, most of them are growing their own weed. Back to what I was saying, I'm a producer. I'm almost not a hash maker. I didn't grow the weed. Mm-hmm. In very few instances in my career, I physically saw the grow through. Did I have part of the grow? Did I take part in the grow? Did I take down the the plants? Did I freeze the plants? Did I harvest? Did I this? Yes. I came in like a rock star at the end and was like, you harvest that, make sure you trim that nicely, make sure, and I'm going to be over here doing a quarter of the work because I'm not getting paid. You know, you go through periods in life where you just have to be honest with yourself. And anyways, that's how it worked. I was never a grower. So shout out to those dudes, and they know who they are because I'm their biggest fan, always have been in the background when nobody knows. We're DMing each other like, proud of you, bro, like you're a killer. So shout out all those people. And they know I've had personal conversations with all of them multiple times for years. Shout out all of you guys. You're my heroes.
Were you one of the first people in Canada to play with a freeze dryer? Like when did that happen for you?
I think so.
Yeah.
I think so. Like I was definitely playing with them in the States.
Yeah.
When nobody had one in Canada. And if anybody did, like, again, the internet wasn't that far along that like people were showing that kind of shit. I remember the first time 710 Labs fucked up, whether it was planned or not, and kind of like showed a quick thing of their lab. And I was like, oh my God, I paused that shit and rewound and watched it 1,000 fucking times. That's how I learned how to fucking change the bubble washer into like a good bubble washer. You know, how to retrofit one. Yeah, like I've been through it all. I've lost a lot of money learning how to make my way. And then came the abundance of information that we call the internet.
So the 2016 legalization in Canada, federally, recreationally, is on the horizon. What are your thoughts as, like, this is something I've always actually wanted to ask a person just like you, is that, you know, as somebody who's probably seen a tremendous amount of success, notoriety, and all around good things happening in during those years leading up to recreational legalization, like, what are your thoughts about what is going to happen, and how are you positioning yourself at that time to benefit or protect yourself against what is coming, or what you think is coming?
So at that time, what I personally thought was, we're fucked. The black market is fucked, because I'd been behind many closed doors. I knew the money and severity of what was coming, and the people involved. And I knew that a lot of these people, for lack of better terms, were just going to do whatever they could to protect their investment. A lot of the black market companies at the time, I could name a lot of people, but I won't, were definitely being asked, like, hey, would you sell this company? And you're like, what? I'm a black market company. Yeah, but your brand is very recognized. So brands all of a sudden became very valuable. You know, people were being offered 300,000, 400,000, 500,000 for what's considered a smaller brand, like a newer brand on the black market. Like, you look around, you're like, that guy got offered 350. He's been around for a fucking year. Like, what? Like, so anyways, I definitely got my offers, frankly, insulting. And I was like, no, I'm not going to do that. But I saw some like really good people around me. Again, that guy, a friend of mine, Duke at the time, that guy was always thinking ahead, man. He's just like a silent genius. I don't know how silent he is, but he's a down low genius. And so then he had a play, and he was offering me something that was an incredible idea. It just didn't end up, the ball didn't end up bouncing that way for everybody. And inevitably, that's what had become big, because me turning down those first offers to buy Pharaoh, those led to me taking a job at what was Supreme 7 Acres. That was my first actual, like, official job. Worked on some SOPs, etc. Was there for 3 or 4 months, and Supreme inevitably had that big, like, falling apart. I was there for that. I'm one of the people that didn't actually lose their job for some weird reason. They just kind of kept me around until my contract expired. But they gave me my first real foray into the industry. And as soon as I left there, I knew I had to do something on my own. And that was Big. So Big was born legitimately in a parking lot on the way to the Wiz Khalifa event for Supreme, where we were all supposed to be taken to the concert, etc. And I pulled over into a parking lot like 2 minutes from the office. And I was like, yo, I'm not going to this. And the dude on the phone was like, what? I'm like, yo, you know what? Can I just be honest? I was like, yo, fuck them. I was like, yo, fuck them. Fuck them for what they did to John. Fuck them for what they did. Like, fuck them. I'm not going to this. And I'm going to find a way to start my own company. And the dude on the phone was like, yo, I'll start it with you. And that's now one of the founders as well, named Scott. And yeah, and then like a month or two later, after we'd been working on very hard every day, working on SOPs and provincial this and provincial that, John Fowler ended up joining us. Open arms. It was an easy conversation, and the three of us to this day are Big.
And you guys were real pioneers in a concept that is starting to be adopted. My company is adopted and will be much more widely adopted as it goes forward, which is partnering with an existing license and executing a compartmentalized and solo business within a larger business. so you can share some of that operational weight between the two companies. And, you know, I think a number of groups that when we all first came into cannabis, everybody thought, well, if I want to do anything, I need the license to do it. And what I think we're slowly starting to realize is you just need access to a license to do it. And it's actually far smarter to walk before you run, so to speak, prove out the concept with somebody who's taken the risk, gotten there, holding the license, and then sharing in the upside. And then you prove out the model, go ahead and build your own facility and set your own thing up. But you've proved the model is sound, instead of putting all that risk up front and front loading it like that. So I don't
think Hash is in a place where it's going to be self-sufficient for a company yet.
Yeah.
If that company, whatever it is, big, whoever, XYZ, God forbid you're the LP and your only thing is hash, look, again, hand to God, just look at the numbers. You cannot maintain a company off hash.
Yeah.
Your company is built on the morality that hash brings to the table, or it should be. Again, I'm not going to go down that path. I'm just saying, hash is something that's like skateboarding. You have to suffer for a long time for real before it's unquestionable that you've walked that path. The minute somebody puts their board down, how they do it, anybody around is like, no. Or, yo, watch this kid, he can skate. You know how many times my wife or people around me are like, bro, he's pushing down the street, how do you know? I'm like, bro, have you ever loved something so much that you like sit up to the TV and are like, how did he poke his foot out like that? Like, oh my God, how did he? No, that's why you don't know how good that kid is by 2 pushes. Everybody else around that would have died to get a trick, they know by those 2 pushes how, like, it's like when I watch people wash on Instagram and they pull their bucket set out or whatever they're using. They grab that hose with such conviction and start spraying through. Okay, so you did all that work to spray your garbage bags through? You know how many hash makers are sitting here right now going, oh my God, I do that. Why would you do that? Why would you spray through the garbage bags? Why not pull that 220 or 190 out, or even just put them in a separate bucket? If you want to collect them, have a separate 45 bag, take your 190 and 220 or 170 and 190 out, put it in a separate bucket, collect it on a separate tray. But why are you washing it into the fucking shit you're keeping? And don't even sit here. Gentlemen, the fucking internet, it's a bitch and shit doesn't go away. So you have to come from a real place where you've burned yourself so many times going, what am I doing wrong? And you can't watch a YouTube video and you're like, yo, why am I spraying through the 190? Oh my God, that's why my 150 sucks. Like, you got to get burned. I mean, that's just where we came from.
100%, man. These are like learning lessons, and now it's so much easier. Like, what's so interesting?
Oh, it's not fair.
Well, talking to cats like you compared to now, where it's like, yo, if you have a high level question about hash, you can jump on Instagram and probably get that answered in like 60 minutes. You know what I mean? And I'm talking a high level question. If you come correct, if you know how to talk to people, like my homie MTS Farms will give away shit that people will charge so much money for if you just come correct. And he'll just
for sure.
And a lot of people
like
are like,
the famous question, like, what do you press at? Like, dog, what are you pressing?
Exactly.
Full spec? Like 90? Like, I love when, I mean, you can't just refer to something as the 90 bag's the best. Like, how do you know how many 150s I've smoked that are by far the best bag pull in that fire run?
would you be able, like, what are your averages? Like, what is the HASHO average if you had to be like 150, 120, 90, 70? Where's the primo falling?
I'm always looking for 104, 120. Or 150 if it's a unicorn.
Yeah.
Those are my, if I could, 70 and 45 would be two separate products. It's so intensely amazing what a good grower can do with a strain that he knows. And no better example than so many people in California. Canada's going to get there. But the hash makers, we're here, we're there. With no offense intended at all. Growing and finishing and prepping just have to come a little further, and genetics have to come a little further. But you got to remember, growers are playing with one slight decision, a pH level, something. A light goes out. Like,
oh yeah, man.
It's so hard. For me, I'm just taking what you grew. Hopefully you harvested properly, or let me harvest. And then if I do my job properly and pay attention enough, we're going to make beautiful babies.
Yeah.
But it all starts with you. Like, it all starts with mom, you know, like, so shout out to every grower out there that ever fucking gave me the time of day. Appreciate y'all.
What are like the biggest differences as somebody who has spent a lot of time in California in the cannabis space, looking around and absorbing that culture? What are the biggest differences that you observe currently between the Canadian market and the California market, both from comparing a legal federal level as well as a cultural legacy comparison?
So like on a legal federal level, it's really cool because what I think is the most important thing in any industry is relationship building. At a certain point, we're going to get to, there's going to be 5 to 10 of us that could step into a lab beside each other. And if given the same material, we're all going to kill it. They're all probably going to end up slightly different. And funny enough, you're going to look at each jar and be like, yo, I know which hash maker made this jar. But we need to wait until all of us have access the way there is in California with guys like Addison and things like the pipeline. But more importantly, from a production angle, now you're getting like, yo, there's a house to go to for fine fashion. Now there's a house to go to for fine, fresh, frozen. Now guys like 710 Labs who kind of like led the way, built the path, wrote the blueprint, Colorado, Florida, California. The beauty is you can be incredibly good at what you do and not be handcuffed. You know what 710 Labs did extremely well? Beyond make phenomenal product. It's almost like they let their culture build their company. Watch. They didn't release flower until the people demanded it. They even kind of left you with a precursor of like, hey man, we grow for hash. Like, we're real hash makers. So like, and they were like, release the flower. Like, I'm making this story very short and probably inaccurate, but like, you know what I mean? Like, they do everything so well, down to relationship building, customer appreciation, care of the stores. Like, I went there, I spent, I can't even tell you how many tens of thousands of dollars in those couple months studying that system, meeting buyers, going to every fucking dispensary multiple times, spending money, solventless Sundays from 710 Labs. Like, they have built and maintained a culture on their own. They've almost given everybody else a top shelf to be on. Mm-hmm. And it gets to the point where like, okay, now there's 710 Labs, there's Resin extracts, there's We'll stop there.
Yeah,
There's
no,
I'm talking legal. I could say a bunch of black market ones.
Yeah. But I mean, I think Skelly plays a big role in that, like understanding that like that was built out of it, like the, you know, like 710 started out of the back of a car, like,
Yeah.
and they've been able to hold that culture. Like I remember reading something, of the 5 top brands in California, 3 like claim legacy and can be traced truly to legacy roots. And so I think that, you know, what's different about the Canadian market than the California market is that when you go and you see the players in the California market, individuals like you and I have a lot to relate to those, a lot more to relate to those individuals than when you go look at the big players in the Canadian market, because those individuals did not come from the culture, did not and entered on their ability to raise capital. Like when the state legalized, it was still federally illegal, so there was still an absolute or a level of risk. So you had to want it. You had to be comfortable to be, you know, in the electricity, so to speak. And however far you were comfortable was however, you know, far you went. But it was quasi legal, and so it prevented this mass corporatized push in where. In Canada, it was completely the opposite, where there was no quasi anything. It was, we're going to tell you, it's October 17th, 2018, motherfuckers, get fucking ready. Build your facilities because we're turning the fucking lights on that day.
And the craziness that they put on people in terms of what you had to spend to build that building, like the hundreds of cameras, the crazy vaults, like that, none of that is needed.
The amount of bank vaults that got shipped into Canada over those 5 years, it would have been laughable. And all of those
people made a lot of money doing electrical jobs and fucking HVAC jobs that were just insanely priced because you had no option and you need us here for 3 months.
Yeah.
Flying
crews in from the Netherlands to build green, like the amount of money that was just misappropriated was fantastic. But I mean, that's what you would expect when you have, like, imagine people who don't skateboard asked to come take out all the skateboarders and then build a skateboard industry, build parks, build skate shops, build skate teams, build skate reps, hire them all, hire the right people. And you, by the way, you've never skateboarded and you have no interest in skateboarding. You only want to make. You're not going to be able to build that culture because that's a culture. That's such an intense.
You're doing that for the love. Like back to what we were saying, like companies like 710 Labs, even though you look at them and think that's $1 billion company, blah, 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 may all be true. Yeah, probably. Here's the thing though. How much money do you think they really make from live rosin? This company is very deep. Okay. Those pre-rolls, like they make blunt foil that sells the fuck out. You can't get it. It's a package of foil sheets that you lay your backwood in and then roll your bed. It's like a perfect backwood roller. 710 Labs branded. Keychains you can't get. Yeah. Like if you go to like Wonder Bread or like a bunch of dispensaries, let's say you're in LA, you're in West Hollywood, whatever. Go to Wonder Bread on on a Sunday from 11 to 2. You'll never be happier in your life. Go experience what Californian culture is really about. And go experience how well a company like 710 Labs does it. And I'm not even talking, I haven't even mentioned product yet. I just realized the product is insanely good. Now here's the shit part. Half ounce 710 Labs, $200. By the time you get it to the fucking till and get it out of the store with state tax, $280 or something, $276.
Yeah.
Go fuck me.
Yeah. It's
not cheap. Absolute fire.
No. I mean, you have a black, 2 markets still currently existing in the California space, and you have a lot of the California cannabis consumers. In fact, the majority of them probably not frequenting those stores. No, either for lack of access, because the amount of retail locations in California is shocking. And if you actually look at it on a map, there's giant blackout areas in California that people have no access to retail stores. And yet, you know, there's access to cannabis everywhere. So, you know, I think that California's going through its own thing, and because California's the pack leader that's been leading the pack for so long that it's weather worn and it's beat up, and unfortunately it's taken a bullet for the rest of the industry. Like California is struggling right now, and the reason that we owe them, and we'll always be we'll always hold them in high regard, but the powerhouse is imploding. And I think that the reason solventless has been able to increase so quickly in popularity and access is the flower prices, the depressed flower prices, and the overall availability of flowers. Everybody is freezing their crops this season that has access to freezers. Freezers are sold out everywhere. Like, it would be crazy to see the numbers of freezers in Northern California.
But it brought down the price of rosin.
100%. And so, bringing it down, increasing access, increasing notoriety, and seeing what ramifications that has, is going to be really interesting. But I think, you're seeing all that culture leak out across the U.S., and you're seeing, Eastern states turn on. So it's really interesting to see. But like, for example, like, let me ask you this. California loves fresh press, loves it. Canada hasn't even ever been exposed to fresh press. Most people don't even know what it is. Do you feel that if we could have the ability to get fresh press to the store, it would have a dramatic impact on the consumer? Or do you feel like Canada is just not educated in that way? Like, what are your thoughts there?
It's not there yet. That's the simple answer. Like, the reality of doing fresh pressed little buttons, or whatever you want to call them, where you're putting that little ball into a jar, whether you're pushing it down or it's inevitably falling, there's a period of time where it's going to settle in that first hour or two. It's going to look like a iridescent, or is that the word, iridescent? A clear piece of candy. In my opinion, that's the worst time to dab. I feel like it's the worst expression of the plant or the hash, but it looks gorgeous. So the realities of doing it in a legal setting is just like every single press or two that you pulled off, you'd have to weigh 13.1 grams on that press. Okay. You'd have to have somebody beside you that is literally breaking up 13.1 grams right off that press, or however you're going to set that schedule. In the black market, if you're going to give something that much attention, it means that hash was really good. It means that grow was really fire. It means that wash turned out super good. It means it dumped in the higher bags. Like, if you're going to put that much attention to something, you're really making a statement. How do you do that when you're doing 7,000 pieces? It's just irrational. So I think part of it, part of like the cold cure, whipped, wet revolution is that it is the best, if you do it right, it's the best expression of the plant or of the hash at a certain point. Because again, I feel like everything needs to be exposed and open and start to turn over and break down. And those fats and lipids and what was that candy coating at the top needs to be penetrated and opened up. And that's where the whipping, stirring revolution came. And look, everybody's allowed to have an opinion and a taste. But the preparation of what it would take to get 5,000 pieces of those clear little buttons to market, it, unfortunately for Canadians, without going into a super long story that I would inevitably butcher, financially and logistically, it's impossible. So,
but I mean, 710 does it. Like they do it, press in a cold room, crack it, and then put the chips into the thing. Like,
I love that. I used to do that with flour rosin. I
have this theory that because Canada is so large and
hold up. I have to stop you.
Yeah.
Do you notice though that when they do those chips that way, I've had a metric ton of 710 labs in my life. Do you notice that when they do the chips that way, they're very dry? They cure very dry. That's why you see the defined chip laying on top of each other. It's a much drier format.
Yeah, they never wet out.
They never wet out.
I never even thought of that until I was about to I thought listen, and I'm like, this guy's no, you're right. They never wet out.
Okay, listen. You have to be in the lab 8 billion times and be faced with this scenario. Oh fuck! I've never seen this happen before. What do I do? Oh shit! What do I do? Okay, how do I package this? How do I do this? How do I do that? When I saw them do the stack, I was like, yes, you guys gave me an out because nobody's gonna question them. They're like that one guy in your neighborhood. You're like, I dare you to say fuck you to that guy's face. Go tell that guy fuck you. This is gonna be funny. Yo, guys, watch. You're never gonna push 710. So they literally they don't even know how much they've done for people.
They've definitely pushed the envelope. I think that Canada, we're so big and we were never makers were never sending or selling fresh press ever. It was always fresh press was that special thing that, at least for my understanding and my understanding and my personal experience, was fresh press never got sent to anybody. We tried it. I used to not even.
I would never send it to anybody. I had a rule. I would never smoke it and I would never release it. I would never release rosin until it was finished. I used to never ask anybody.
Yeah, I used to not smoke the fresh press, and then people started saying, "Oh, smoke it," and I smoked it, and I would always
good.
It was interesting, and I find that different cultivars and really good makers, there's only a few makers that I've experienced that grow something that's incredibly delicious and fresh press, soft, malleable. 710 has a couple things, but
Vanspan did it the best in Canada.
Vanspan did some really nice work.
And I'm going to tell you this. If he's listening or if he ever sees this or whatever, here you go. He is such a good hash maker. That guy can find melt like nobody can find melt. Watch.
Yeah, no, shout out Vanspan.
His fresh press little grams and coins, those clear ones, bro, that's the worst shit he does. Because everybody probably it looks good. He probably got a ton of attention for it, blah, blah, blah. He was his hand was forced. And fuck, people like it. Okay, cool. But yo, have you ever had one? Mm-hmm. They taste like wax compared to if you ever let that thing turn over and start to give it the little love. As soon as it starts to oxidize, it's 10 times better. Whatever the cultivar he releases is 10 times better when that little puck starts to turn over.
Do you a lot of people are
don't hate me for saying that.
No, man, I ask everybody, and everybody's allowed their opinion and nobody's wrong. A lot of people claim that marble phase where it's just changing and you can kind of see it change. Is there something they really enjoy? Is there a certain phase of that change that you like, or will you always whip it up?
No. As soon as, when you see that marbling, as soon as there's 20% or under left, because you never want to be stuck with a marble of straight up candy, because that's not ready to actually help you do anything. But once it's starting to, you see those little sweat lines and there's 10% of that candy left, get it up against the wall, give it that little push, the downward against the wall, the little, we all have our own way of doing it. Mine's always been I call it the pyramid. I never actually go into the middle of the jar. My dabber never sees the middle of the jar. I use the jar and I hit the walls and I spin the jar and I hit the walls and I hit the walls and I go down quarter inch at a time until I hit the back, till the bottom, to the bottom, to the bottom, spin and just get in there. Inevitably, it starts to end up looking like a pyramid, and then you can kind of start from the bottom and press and press and press and turn and press. You'll see it just take on a life of its own without you having to stab the fuck out of it and just destroy the rosin. I personally hate it when I see people prep grams with a million fucking poke holes in it. I'm like, oh, sick. Air my rosin out for me. Thanks so much.
Yeah.
Like, I don't get it. In what world would you just prep a steak and then stab it 800 times and send it to the guy eating it?
That's a great comparison, bro.
Again, I know sometimes I say things with like a little bit of passion. People are, well, fuck him then. Like, all right, sorry, but that's just my opinion.
Yeah. No,
and Vans fan, I'm sorry if you see this. Like, I think your fresh press is cool, but I like your rosin finish way better than the fresh press. And I think you're a G.
Yeah. No,
Same with Slurm. He's like another guy that was really good. I admired the way he cured out his rosins. He used to do like that mountain cut trop cookie, or I don't remember. I smoked a lot of rosin, but there are a lot of killers in Canada. So shout out all you guys.
Yeah. No, it's interesting to see like what trends come across and what doesn't as much from West Coast US cannabis culture to just Canadian culture. And I think that, you know, what I really want to push for is Canada to have its own flavor. You know, I think that, you know, you and I talked about this a little bit, and that there was a moment in time when Canada was kind of, you know, working on having its own thing. But right now, would you agree with me where you would say that a lot of Canadian cannabis culture is looking at and trying to absorb American cannabis culture, specifically
California? Oh my God, yeah. Just think about when stuff like what's coming up in Vegas?
MJ Biz.
MJ Biz.
Yeah.
Look, not to be negative, but if you're going to an American show or you're going to MJ Biz and your intent is to learn about the American or Californian-esque market, you're not going to do it at a conference in 2 days. The statement has never been truer anywhere in the world. If you are a fraud, the only doors you're going to get in the US are the ones where they see that you're a fraud, but you have money and you're about to get played. Because nobody's going to take anybody on or back anybody out there that does not have a fucking resume. If you have a ton of money, and you're going to force your way in, you'll find somebody to collab with you. There's always a way to make shit happen. But if you want to be on that, like Alien Labs, Connected, 710, like if you want to be on that top shelf, homeboy, like you needed to have done something. And it's going to be a really weird announcement if like a Canadian all of a sudden has a line in the US that's not like one of very few people. Because then you have to ask yourself, like, this has to be somebody buying in. Because again, as big as you think that market is, especially if you're talking about hash, as big as you think it is, you're about to find out how small it is and how hard it is to play against 2 or 3 dudes. Because how do you go around beating? How do you get around the breeding program, the flower, the infrastructure, the history? Like, there's a couple companies out there that this is their lives. It always has been. You said it yourself. And you're not going to create a resume or a rhetoric in the US that does not exist. Oh, 800-pound mantra.
It's always been like that. Like I think that until
800-pound mantra. Sorry, 800-pound mantra.
Yeah.
Like guys like that, you're not going to just lie to them or make up a story. It's like 2 to 3 phone calls away from, no, that guy's lying, bro. Who the fuck is that? Like,
it's a small, well-connected community for the people who have actually put their time in. Like guys like Addison.
Because access is everything. Access is the most valuable shit we have left. Yeah. Stop giving the keys to the people you're calling Chad. And then when Chad comes knocking on your door with a bit of money, you're ready to sell your soul.
Yeah.
So don't bite the hand that feeds you. If you're like, yo, I'm ready to cut a check. Be the guy that's like, fuck it, I'm ready to cut a check. I want to have a cottage. I want to have a lake house. I want my family, my kids to go to private school. If Starbucks wants to buy my idea, yo, give me a green apron. Yo, I respect that. But some people don't. And some people aren't going to back you in that excursion, which you can go on, but you're probably not going to go on it with Turp.
Yeah, you, as long as it's on your own terms and you're okay and you can stand with it, then you know that's your decision. And
there's a much easier route in California.
Yeah,
partner with the right people, be a real motherfucker, have a resume that stands up, have a history that stands up. Still going to cost you money, but you get a bit of a layup because the people in position of power, you've checked out. You work hard. You're out there, living out there, making relationships, visiting dispos. People know you by name. Oh, the Canadian guy's here again. Like, yeah, I've been here for 2 months. I see you every 48 hours. Then it becomes like, what's up, Jill? You know, you're not the Canadian guy anymore. Listen, if you don't walk uphill, when we get to the bottom to come back and ride the mountain again, you're not just going to jump on my kid. No, who the fuck are you? There's like 6 or 7 people that I've seen at this hill every day. You're not just coming here now because it's cool. That's kind of that access to those people is now becoming coveted. Yeah. What somebody would take 4 or 5 months to accomplish, certain dudes make a phone call. Let's get the game on. When do you need it? We'll ship to you next week. I think he's going out there next Thursday. You're like, really? Yeah, we're good. We're good. That's what's valuable.
So do you think that what we're heading towards is a Canadian market where every medium to large player in Canada will have an American counterpart? Or do you think that those two markets are going to stay pretty insulated?
Listen, I'm going to say this, man. Like, I really wanted to be in the US. I really put in the work. I really put in the time. I think everybody saw. It's a fucking tough go. And I'm somebody that I feel like, unless I'm crazy and lying to myself, I've put in as much work up until now as a Canadian could have put in. I stole my style from them. I can't. I've told that story too many times to make up a new one for today. So, like, I continue still to look at them for guidance, for the blueprint. The only thing is, like, it's just a different blueprint now. I'm not looking for tech or how you this or how you stir, what machines you think are the best, blah, blah, blah. I'll make hash with the best of them if you give me the same material they have. You want to go like hand for hand? I hate to say this, but there's a bunch of Canadians that'll be like, bro, just give me that material. What the fuck are they going to do that I can't do? So what we need to be looking at them for is, again, like, the way that industry runs, the fact they can brand, the fact they can direct deliver, the fact they can have concierge services, the fact that in no other climate where you sell something or produce a good is there so much restriction. We can't even have a logo in Canada. You go into an American dispensary, it looks like an exotic snack store. Like, the bags are off the walls at this point. They're Jordan shoes, backpacks. Like, you can put your belt through your weed bag. Like, it's insane. It's going to start singing. Like, you open it and it's like fucking the Backstreet Boys or something. And they're like, love me, love me.
So, like, I mean, do you think that weed culture is on the verge of exploding? Like, is that your...
I fucking hope so, bro. Because, like, look at the impact of, like, all the work that you've done, generation. And now guys like me and you and the world are like, oh, did you know 710 Labs started in a fucking car in fucking Colorado? Like, bro, that's the thing of myth. That's thing of lore. Like, you had to be there to know that. Like, and now it's like a thing people talk about in our industry. Like, did you know? And that's so beautiful to me. Mm-hmm. Like, let's get more of that happening. And let's champion more of supporting people and things for the right reasons and getting into things for the right reasons. I'm not saying people aren't going to do it for the wrong reasons from this day till the day we die.
Yeah.
Capitalism will live strong forever. And if somebody thinks there's a piece they can take from somebody, they're going to take it.
I think
So-
skate culture did a really good job kind of maintaining their culture well. I mean, I wasn't part of
while
it.
selling out. I
Yeah.
agree with you. Just call it what it is. Mountain Dew, Red Bull, Nike, Dew Tour, X Games, the Olympics. Skateboarding said, you know what? Enough of the world appropriating our entire culture, using us in random stupid old Navy commercials or whatever. It was when, funny enough, Dr. Dre put Kobe and Paul Rodriguez in a Nike commercial together. Or it was when Stevie Williams and Tommy Hilfiger's son, or there was so many times in history where skateboarding came together with major brand culture or major hip hop culture and defined a generation or defined a moment, Again, I lost my train of thought. I'm way too high for this.
No, man. I mean, I think that I was just comparing the skateboarding's ability as an industry and culture to
maintain
integrity. Well,
and that's what they did really well. They said
commercializing or AKA selling out, and I think that they did that really well. And I think that Canada did it absolutely poorly. Like one thing I wanted to ask you was, how long, if just you had to guess, is it going to be till the Canadian retail experience mirrors the Californian retail experience?
Brother, wow. That's a wild question. Because I'm a retailer, I'm a brand, I'm a fucking, wow, it's a tough one.
We haven't talked about the retail store yet, but I kind of wanted to open up with this and then kind of go back to High Variety and to what you're doing now.
That's a tough one, man. If I literally had to take a guess, and I've tried to do this before, I would say you've got to give it about 5 years.
5 ain't bad. That's not that
Listen,
long.
It is what it is.
Yeah.
So if it happens sooner, I'd love to eat my words and everybody say I'm an idiot.
Yeah.
Great. Fucking pray for that day.
Yeah.
But I'm going to go ahead and say 5 years.
Yeah. So I have a couple more hash questions, but I think this is a really good segue into your business venture, High Variety.
Yeah.
Now your partnership with Ghost Drops, but can you talk a little bit about, what you did there? I've been to that spot. It is the best retail store and experience that I've been to, bar none, in Canada.
Are we talking about High Variety or Ghost Drops?
High Variety.
I appreciate you.
And so I wanted to know what your, when did that idea come about, and talk a little bit about that project.
So High Variety was actually born in a horrible, horrible period of my life. My wife, so I have a charity called Sarah's Soldiers that I hope at least people that follow me are very aware of, because we've been around for quite a while. But Sarah's Soldiers is my wife, Sarah, and she has multiple sclerosis. And in 2021, January 2nd, 2021, we had our second child. And immediately after that, a couple weeks after that, something happened with her MS. And I mean, for lack of a long story, things got very dicey. She was in the hospital from January 24th to pretty much August. In that time, things got extremely crazy. It was in the height of COVID. She didn't leave the ICU for almost 3 full months. There was some crazy, crazy moments.
Yeah.
And in that time, High Variety was born. Restaurants were dying. My partner had a restaurant in an amazing location in Queen West. Queen West was coming up. It was having its time. And they had a license. They had a retail license. And they came to me and were like, look, like, we obviously can't do this without you. Is it something you would do? And I was like, look, if we do it fully my way and you just stay out of the way, I'll make this like, I'll do it. I'll go to the hospital at St. Mike's, which is just down Queen from where my store is. I'll stay all day there. Then I'll come here for like 4 o'clock. I'll work, I'll design, I'll build, blah, blah, blah. And High Variety was born. And it was born out of like, again, just straight up true love, skateboard style aspect of like, you walk in the front door, there's magazines, video games, an espresso machine, a fridge with milk and cream, and we'll make you a latte, sign HASHO's wall. There was a little bit of like a vibe, man. It was a fucking vibe. It was
good. It was a vibe. Yeah.
You walk in, you make that right-hand turn, you're like, yo, what's this? And I'm like, oh, that's our gallery wall. They're like, gallery wall? I'm like, yeah, that's where all the local artists get 3 months at a time to put up their art. And if you like it, you contact them, you hit their Instagram, you support them. We can't sell it to you. That's against the law. But if you like their art, click on that barcode, do whatever people do with their camera these days, and that thing pops up. We had all that shit. I didn't do it, but we had all that shit. We had the Wrigley Field scoreboard at the back. We had the chairs. We had the chilling area. It was a vibe. It was where people came to smoke on the stoop. It was where people came to, like, in a weird way, like, meet HASHO, like finally not on Instagram. It kind of like made me real. Like all the reps and all the companies that inevitably had to come and sell me their product, or the people. And it was a time, man. It was, I never got to hug or like, it was right. Like everybody was like, fuck COVID. It was that July where it was still another year until we were out of it, but everybody's like, yo, fuck this shit. So we're all wearing masks, but like everybody came and like pulled their mask down and like gave a hug. It's like, fuck with this bullshit. It was a vibe. And then
you did a lot. You did a lot for the community. I mean, the thing about it, bro, is like nobody jumped in from the legacy immediately when legalization happened. You know, like, I mean, just
I got ridiculed for that shit.
And that was it. And so like nobody else, but I think you've done a really good job, because very few people could take that fire as first man through the door and then turn it around and kind of lay out a blueprint of how things can be done, where you can still maintain integrity and respect at, you know, tables behind closed doors, but still make bread in the legal space. So like, I really commend you. And now we're starting to, you know, I know Kind Selections is, you know, working on a number of projects, and I know a number of dudes like Lerm's coming in, Bubbleman's
he's already
here, you know. So like, I just feel like it's slowly turning into a more recognizable, culturally based industry, and by no means are we anywhere close to done. But I think that, you know, what you've done and what you've been able to do with High Variety and you know, with Big, and finding how we can bring rosin to market, like nobody could figure it out. And then, you know, you took some incredibly cultivated sun-grown product and turned it into, you know, a great offering. Like it was the first palatable rosin on the market. Like it wasn't the best rosin ever, but
you think it was my best work?
No, it was not your best work.
The whole goal of Big was we sat there, endlessly sat there, looking at the numbers. You have to remember, my partners, unlike me, are extremely talented, brilliant individuals. Opposite of me. I'm just a hash maker. And my whole point was, we're not releasing anything that's not of value. If I feel for 1 second that there's a human being out there making $17 to $20 an hour, working their fucking ass off, getting up at 4:30 in the morning to do construction, etc., and I'm gonna sit here and charge them $80, $90 for some full spec, that's not happening. So don't put my name. I'm not backing shit. And to their credit, they were like, yo, we don't do anything unless you say that we're doing it. Like, bro, that's not our job. My job is not to tell you what's palatable hash. My job is to make sure that we get it to market on time. Our contracts are solid. We have material coming in and we can run a real business. I had the best part. I have the best partners.
Yeah.
Just like I got lucky, not lucky, but like you attract, right? Like High Variety's plan was 12 to 18 months. We either reassess where we're at. Do we open another location? 2 locations? Has somebody approached us by then? Does Tokyo Smoke want it? Like we're ready to hear anything. And then God was like, nah, chill. Just chill. I got a better idea for you. His name is Organic Hip Hop. You guys are already homies. You just don't know that the hard work he's been doing all by himself back here in Ontario, blah, blah, blah. Just chill, because you guys are going to meet. And a couple years from then, you guys are going to meet again and again and again and again. Here's Ghost Drops. You always wanted to do something real with somebody real and blah, 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 blah. From the street? All right, bet. They have no public funding. It's your homie. He built the dopest brand. He did it. Now he's got help.
Explain to me how, because I don't know the story behind Ghost Drop. So explain to me the culmination and how these parties came together. Like there was Organic Hip Hop, yourself, and then John Durante. Is that? So
I'm not sure how, like, John, I know that John and so John is the founder. John and Travis are the founders. Like that's them. That's theirs. Gene is the CEO. He's like the brains and the muscle. I don't know, like how you what you want to say. But like you have to understand that was built from a cultural aspect. Like Travis is just like this wildly talented, like amazing human being. And Ghost Drops became a very, very insanely hard to get and insanely powerful movement in Ontario. I travel a lot to BC and et cetera. And oftentimes you'll hear like, yo, congratulations on blah, blah, blah. Like, yo, we didn't even know what Ghost Drops was. And I'm like, yeah, I get it. I've heard that in like Nova Scotia and Edmonton, they have a bigger presence. But that's with anything. There's companies that never left Montreal or Quebec that were massive, that did huge numbers. You know what I mean? So for me here, watching the rise of Ghost Drops from the ground up, being in the legacy market so far prior to them, already having a bag brand that was, like far been marketed as a brand. I saw Ghost Drops coming from a mile away. The jars, the ceiling, it wasn't until I like met the founder that I was like, yo, see, this is what I mean, bro. Like shit like this is legit. Like these people are stupid legit. And the fact that they were entering market at like the 5-month point coming into Christmas, a perfect time to remodel a store, blah, blah, blah. Again, you always have to understand that like timing is something, but attributing that moment in time is a skill in itself that a lot of people always talk themselves out of. Things are scary. Water's cold. You don't always want to jump in. But or else what did we do this for? Like, I didn't do all this work to get here and just go home. So God blessed me with Ghost Drops.
And now you've entered into a full partnership with them, or what's that relationship look like?
Yep. So now they own a certain percentage of, it's like, I don't even know how to break that down. It's like a shared relationship, Yeah. Like me and my partners are now partners with him, so me and Travis basically brought our 2 parents together that were divorced, like single parents. And we're like, yo, dad, my buddy's friend is hot. Like my buddy's mom's hot. Like, you know what I mean? Like, and it was that relationship between me and Travis where we could both go back to our partner groups and be like, yo, this dude's a legend.
Yeah.
You don't even know. For me, it was easy. I was like, yo, let me tell you a little story about Legendary. Meet my boy Travis.
Yeah.
Guess what? His company that almost like diluted how cool I became at a certain point on the internet. Watch. And they're going legal. And he was like, yo, my boy's a legend, blah, blah, blah. And then like we met and it was over. Like that was, it had to be HASHO and Ghost Drops. So they did the line. They invested who knows how much money into getting my name out there. And I'll just always be indebted, you know, I'll always, I could sell no units and people could say, fuck that guy. And it doesn't matter because that guy had a fucking weed with his name on it first in Canada, first in an entire country, and from a real place. I'm not a made up story. I'm right here. And you know who will tell the story the best? The people that despise me.
Yeah.
Ask them about me. I've been here that long. So it doesn't matter what you think I can or can't do. We're talking about reality versus a made up story. And that whole thing about legacy, and we're legacy. If you have to scream in a room how tough you are, you're not tough. You're hoping that everybody weaker than you hears you and is like, fuck, I don't want to scream louder than him. I might get knocked out. But there's always that guy in the room that's like, bitch, shut the fuck up. Don't make me get up.
Yeah.
There's always going to be that guy.
Yeah, I mean, there's a number of groups, and I think that we're going to see everyone in Canada, every legal licensed entity in Canada try to either emulate or partner up with and align with a known legacy brand in a similar fashion as individuals like yourself or even like Todd from Rosin Heads. Like, I think what Todd did with Rosin Heads is truly a playbook or an SOP, for lack of a better term, of what one guy can do who understands the legacy market, who understands what a certain consumer segment wants, and is able to get his products into the right people's hands. Like, he killed it. Like I after talking to him and getting to know him after his success with Rosin Heads, I only like just had a few conversations prior. From optically, I thought he was selling so much more Rosin Heads than he actually did. And when I, talked to him about it, and he'll be fine with me saying it now, but it was really, he just created a product that catered to the individuals that were the true tastemakers in the industry, in the legacy space. Because I was like, oh, so you were just lacing dudes up, like these dudes up with boxes. And he's like, a little bit, but actually these guys were paying for these boxes. Yeah. And so like, you created a product so perfect for the people that are influencing large groups of buyers that they were going to reach into their pocket, buy it. Then they wanted to post about it. And then you leverage that into demonstrating your value to a legal company that wants to license that brand and bring it into the space. And like, fucking
follow that model from the black market though. Yeah. If you want to get really technical and take a trip back in time, Todd will be the first person to tell you this, hands down. I was his first ever collab. He reached out to me on a personal level when I was like, I think useless wooden toy, bro. Wow. And he was like, no, I had just become Pharaoh. And I know because he hit me up and he's like, I have an idea for you. And I'm like, all right. He's like, you should do a chocolate with me and it should be solventless. I'm like, what? He's like, yeah. I'm like, what would we do? He's like, you'd send me material, blah, blah, blah. We do the one that you want like anything special. I'm like, I want ganache in it. I want like a milk chocolate outer with like a white swirl and ganache. He's like, okay. He's like, and a shape? And I'm like, I want a pyramid. I'm Egyptian. My name's Pharaoh. I want a pyramid. He's like, yo. And I'm like, what? He's like, I fuck with it. We're going to do Pharaoh pyramids. And he did. He literally took the bull by the horns 10 years ago and was like, I see something special in this guy. And I was like, I see something special in this guy. We've literally been friends ever since, to this day.
Shout out to Todd from Rosin Heads.
Shout out Todd.
Well, amazing branding, amazing brand. He's the brain. He's the entire thing behind it. So if you're like, oh, it's got the team, no, it's all him, man. It's all him. So shout out to Todd. I want to talk a little bit more tech and then we're going to switch into all the really cool projects that I know you're working on. But I wanted to talk about your experiences running a machine. Have you had a lot of experience working on Ospreys or Axis or Icons, and what are your thoughts? Like,
I have all of those ones.
So do you feel, so having all access to all those, do you feel like there's limitations to every single one, and ultimately there's a quality that can be achieved in hand washing that can't be achieved with those machines? Or do you believe it's simply understanding those machines and running this proper
Simply understanding those machines.
Yeah.
Listen, look, I'd love to sit here and say that hand washing is the truth and longboards aren't skateboards. Like, yes, there's a truth to both of those statements. Hand washing is better. You know what's better though? Preparation. And nobody prepares properly, in my opinion, and I'll leave that statement at that. People said, like, how long you soak your ice in water for? Like, how many buckets, barrels do you have as a reservoir? Like this and that. It's been very few times over a 10-year plus career where people say, like, oh, I soak my water the night before. Like, I'll start my buckets at 9 p.m. with like 2 bags of ice and like a 7-degree room, 5-degree room. I'm like, yeah, you're good. I fuck with you. You understand how important it is. You know how many things come off that just one statement that I'm not going to get into? But like, you know how many things from that one statement lead to 5 things the next day that happen better or quicker or way easier, or it takes somebody that has walked through the fire to know, like, what are you doing, bro? If you run down this mountain right now and try and fucking catch one of those goats, you're not catching shit because you're an idiot. And they're going to fucking hear you from half the way down. We're going to walk down slow like we don't even know they're there. And we're going to catch 7 of them. We're going to eat for a month. That's what preparing the day before is. And there's so few dudes that, and look, the beauty of a machine is, bro, you could set that shit infinitely. Now, I love and don't love some of them, and we're not going to just sit here and bash companies, but for whatever reason, I ended up with an Osprey, an Icon, a Hashtag, a Bruteless, everything.
You've got to be like breathing pretty rarefied air, having access to every single one of those in the same lab.
No, they're not in the same lab.
Okay. But I mean, even just having access to every single one of those, you're breathing.
I do have access to every single one of those, but they're not in the same lab. I've built labs for multiple companies that I also still have access to. So I consider anything that I've literally designed or built from scratch like my lab. If anybody else works in it, you work in my house.
100%. I'm all about providing value to people. And I think that the best thing that we could talk about right now is like, what do you like and dislike about those machines? Like, what are the positives and negatives for people that are looking to invest their hard-earned money into a piece of equipment?
So look, without getting into detail, because that's not what we're doing, I'm not going to pick apart each. But here's what I consider important in a machine, and what I always used to try and recreate by hand. When I would open wash or wash with a bag or use cubes, or when I was using my hands and a paddle, much like I stir a jar of hash, maybe I'm just weird, I use the walls. And I turn that jar. When I make hash, I use the bucket. I literally never go in. I go to the wall. So the initial impact of my paddle coming into the water is always against the wall of the bucket. And then I stir down and up, down and up, down and up. And I try to get an actual, like, you can see the water depress and turn into like a funnel when I'm stirring. And then I'll stop it and go the other way and go the other way. Now, why do that when a human is naturally going to degrade over time? You can't lift You can't do 300 curls with 20 pounds. If you could, you would see that over time of that 2.5 or million hours it took you to do, you did it a lot slower, a lot sloppier.
Yeah.
I think there's benefits to all machines. I think my favorite style of machine wash is a machine that doesn't have a paddle. I think manipulating the water and creating that vortex is much more important than any paddle. So if you can nail the cold and what I call like the switch. So like you need more pressure than I think people that haven't done 1,000 washes are scared to give something. Because it's that vortex and that changeover, that boom. That's everything. That disruption. I don't know why I just did that on camera. But like,
man, no, I completely understand what you're saying.
that disruption is everything. That preparation the night before, that freezing cold water.
Yeah.
Everything. I don't dislike machines with paddles. I prefer machines that know how to move water properly and don't rely on something inside the water to do it for them.
Yeah.
Which is my personal preference.
No, I mean, that's a fair assessment. Let me ask you this. Resin blending, is it something that you think that is going to become more popular as time goes on? Is it something that you do in your lab? What are your thoughts on it? Like, we're seeing a lot of it a rise in popularity. A lot of cup winners are blends, and a lot of people are trying to distinguish themselves as hash makers by blending things out because a lot of people are growing the same cultivars. So, you know,
the GMO craze. So I get it, but it just comes down to that purist mentality again of like, are you blending resins? Like, are you blending sift and then pressing them out together? Is it like a honey banana and a GMO that you froze in the same tray or in the same freeze dryer, and now you're blending the sifts? You're going to sieve it, you're going to bag it, and it's going to go in as lemon loaf or whatever the fuck you want to call it. Or are we like pressing rosin and then the rosins are being blended and like, you know, like soft served together or cold cured together? Or which way are we talking?
What do you think, Mike? Like, are there, is it
either way you're doing the same thing? Yeah. I just think that like, if you're doing it at the core level of pressing them, like mechanical separation together, then there's an aspect I actually truly think is almost like artistic about it, or like much like a baker, you know, if you want to add more vanilla, brown sugar, this or that. But then there's that period where it goes for a baker, it goes into the oven. And you're going to see if you made the right decision because it's going to rise properly or it's so when as a human, I can't dictate fat content. I can't dictate this or that by eye. I can try. I've done a lot of washes. I make a lot of educated guesses. People are shocked sometimes. But if you're doing it at that core level of separation, you're adding heat, you're adding pressure, you're amalgamating the two from birth. Like at a certain point, they are liquid trapped in a cage that need to get out of that cage. So they're going to come together and they're going to come out together. They're going to live together. They're going to bind together. They're going to cure together. They're going to open up together like a flower. They're going to give off their fucking flower aroma. They're going to curl out and fucking like shimmer and be. But if you do it as a rosin, it's like, oh shit, GMO sucks. If I take 80% cherry punch and stick it in this GMO, I'm going to have a gassy cherry punch. And you're like, please, 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 please.
That's one of the coolest answers that I've ever had. That's one of the coolest answers I've ever had to that question. And it makes me think like it makes me think so much. It's like, okay, well, let's get some COAs on, because I thinking about it, like there's got to be some chemical changes. If you took a half and half wash of heads, press those together, or you press them individually and then combine those two half and halves in rosin and then saw the differences. Like, I think that's, you're going to see.
It would be insane differences.
Yeah.
You have to remember, right? Water's a solvent. It's the ultimate solvent. It's the ultimate solvent in the entire world. It's the greatest solvent in the entire world. It defeats BHO like fucking, like nothing. It's the greatest solvent. It's the original solvent. Water's a solvent. Now watch.
No, for sure.
100% it is. Just, that's a science.
No. I agree with you. Like
when you take something and you sieve it, right? Now we've got these heads that are pretty much water-based, fat-based, lipid-based. Like, again, I'm not a scientist, so just feel me out. I'm a fucking bro science, right? Watch. Now you've sieved them. Now they're in their individual state, unadulterated mimosa and ice cream cake. Two separate fucking continents. But now you're putting them in a bag. Now you're putting them in this real tight environment. Chances are they've been sieved in the same sieve together. All those heads are floating to the fucking paper together. They're binding together. They've learned to live together now. Now they're in this bag. They've been pre-pressed. They're going on these plates. They're like, oh shit, it's hot in here. Like, let's fucking, what do we do? Like, fuck, okay, let's see if we can do this. And now they're like, oh shit, we're being pressurized. Oh, what the fuck? But now we're turning into water. Now we're a solvent. Now we're coming out together. We cannot at this point maintain any individuality. If we're gonna live, we need to get out that little hole and we need to get out together. So, yo, homeboy, give me the biggest hug you've ever given me because we won now. All right? At that point, you have literally had a complete amalgamation of everything from a liquid standpoint. When this thing starts to dry up, cure, and bind together, it has no choice but to share life.
Yeah.
When you create two separate lives and shove them in a jar together, you're hoping that you got lucky. You're hoping that you paired a good wine with a good meat.
Yeah. You're
hoping. You're a sommelier at that point. You're either a good one or a bad one, but you're not a creator. There's something special about being able to identify that this mimosa and this one cut of mimosa smells like fuck yogurt. Like usually it's rotten tangerine, but this one is rotten tangerines, but with like, it's like a Yoplait yogurt. I'd fuck with that. That was a real Yoplait flavor. I'd eat the shit out of that. And this ice cream cake is a gassy fucking, this one's good. That doughy. I bet you. Yeah. I'm going to press these together. I'm going to start at like 150. And if it moves at all, if I preheat this for like 30 seconds and I give it the littlest feather and it starts, I see that glisten, that maybe I take it to 150. Let me see how the bag clears. Okay, you press that first one out, 3,500, 4,500. Oh shit, there's nothing left in that bag. I don't need to go past 150. This shit's fire. This shit just wants to come off. But now, bro, you've created water.
Yeah.
You didn't force something together.
Yeah.
That are still literally two separate entities. You're never going to amalgamate them properly as separate entities.
Yeah.
I don't care how much you stir it. They weren't born together.
Yeah.
It's going to be a totally different experience. And if you're willing to take those gambles and you're willing to be in the kitchen making those croissants and adding sea salt and, well, nobody's ever tried this, like, all the power to you. And as a purist, it doesn't really fuck with like that little filter inside my heart. But when you're just amalgamating two, I feel like you're cheating. And I've done that before. I've had a great rosin and a mediocre one, but one looked way better than the other. And I'm like, well, this whiteness would really help this, and this smell would really help this.
Yeah. Man, I love your perspective. I think that's one of the coolest answers. I want to switch gears a little bit.
Okay.
As we look to wrap things up, I want to talk about your current projects. Like, I know you've got a ton of stuff going on. Maybe you can't talk about all of it, but I know you've got a clothing line out that you're working on. You've got a number of different projects. You were just down in LA skating with some big names, or kicking it with some big names. Like,
that's fun.
You know, like what can you tell the listeners about, you know, new and exciting projects, if at all?
Okay, I mean, like, okay, so like to break a lot of people, and this is great. I don't mean to make it sound like a lot of people have been asking, but like, I mean, a lot of people have definitely asked and been asking people around me, like, what's he doing in LA? What's he doing in LA? So here's the short story. It's always been a dream of mine since skateboarding. You know, I've had this love affair with Los Angeles and Southern California. You pick sides when you're a kid. It's either New York is your Mecca or Cali's your Mecca. I got lucky, and, you know, since the age of like 20, I've been flying back and forth on somebody else's dollar and experiencing California the right way. And you fall in love with that place. And leaving the skateboard industry was devastating, because one of the things is like, oh, it's not like I'm leaving money. It's like I'm leaving what I loved. I'm bitter on what I loved because of humans. Oh shit, I'm never going to get to go to Cali again. Like, unless I go for vacation, like, fuck, that's it. It's over. That shit's devastating. So funny enough, like when weed started to take me in places where I thought I'd never be back, it was like, yo, I can do this in Cali. And God bless me, I had my nephew, TJ Rogers. He lives out there, and we, you know, that's a whole other story, but yes. So lived on his couch, blah, 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 did the whole thing over again, the whole skateboard life over again for weed. And got lucky enough to meet my partner at the time, and a great homie, Justin Lee, one of the original guys from 710 Labs. And he introduced me to Joe, Shelby, and Nick from Green Street Agency. And then through talks with them, I became, I don't know if how do I say, like I was with them, or like I signed to them, or I paid them, or like whatever, like they represented. But what it came down to is, like, you know, we met with them a few times, and they really believed in like HASHO and the story. And, you know, it always came down to like, you're so genuine. And everything you say checks out. It always comes down to like, are you real out there? Long story short, I decided to go a different way with it. And I was introduced to Addison and Kevin from 800 Pound Mantra and the Pipeline. And, you know, getting to go to their office and meet them, and you end up learning a lot by being on the road and walking that path. You know what I mean? You start to understand the value of the word access. You start to realize the validity of the word legacy. And I know, and I'm laughing right now, and I may sound sarcastic, and I am not in any way insinuating that anybody is real or not real. What I'm saying is, oftentimes it takes a long time to find your people in life. I found mine on the second try. It just sucks that on the first try, I kind of tapped myself out in terms of resources. And the reality of the US market is that it is a great story, and I have a fantastic story, and being the first legacy crossover in Canada, and being a great hash maker, and being a great guy, I think what it all led to was a realization that if I tried to break into the US, especially right now, as much as it would have benefited me, it would have been a bit of a made up story. I don't have any relevance there. And I would have had to go in doing a bunch of collabs and a bunch of this. But what did come of it was I learned a huge lesson. I made great friends. And more than anything, I know that when I do reevaluate this in January, and the route I would go and want to go, it would be with Addison and Kevin, guys that I could go sleep on their couch, guys whose dogs I wouldn't mind draping over my neck at night. and doing it the real way and enjoying it again and enjoying the process again. And I feel like I almost tried to skip the line the first time by who I was trying to associate with and for the reasons I was doing it. And it's because I had outside investors, I had outside opinions. Nobody made a selfish decision or wrong decision. We just made almost a rushed decision. And I don't want to do it that way. I have all the love in the world and all the respect in the world for the industries and the things that I do. I don't do them for any other reason than the love of it. And I think that shows. And I think that's why people are so polarized by me. It's love or hate. But the beautiful things that came out of this year was the relationship with Dom at Brooklyn Projects. Him believing in the line, believing in me as a creator, seeing my work, and having me in the store, treating me like family, meeting Noah, meeting 40, having him believe in me, having him take me under his wing at Bull Rider, having him believe in me to the point of helping me, guiding me with decisions for Sarah's Soldiers. I think famously, I think people know that he has multiple sclerosis, and I think that was a cool thing that we ended up being together in a work situation and developing a friendship. And it's meeting you, it's meeting Addison. A lot of people have come into my life this year that they weren't a means to an end in any way. Like I can't benefit from any of those relationships other than an infinite amount of knowledge and friendship. And it's crazy how much you learn from people that, again, have walked through the fire in their industry.
Yeah, it's about access. It's about access, but like recognizing like we're all kind of on our own, but you had to go through so much bullshit to get all the scars to be recognized as a guy with all the scars. And then you finally run into the guy, and I'm like, yo, you kind of have some scars that look like my scars. And it's like, yeah, I got these scars. And it's like, oh, I got these scars. And then it's like, okay, so you've come from the same place. Let me fact check a couple things. Everything checks out. And then it's like, okay, now we can work together quicker. And it's like you said, the deal gets done faster with that experience and that network set up and trying to flush out the right people to kind of build that thing where,
to be honest, again, it's timing, right? People, just like opportunity, people come into your life. Like this year, after going through what I went through with my wife and a lot of other things, to meet somebody like that believes in you so much. Sometimes it comes at a time where you needed some self, as strong as people think you are, as much as people think like people are like impenetrable. Sometimes you need somebody to have your back. Sometimes you need that little bit of confidence of somebody to tell you like, bro, you're special. Like you're not just good at what you do. Like you're like, okay, your wife's in the hospital, not just for like a flu or a cold. You know what I mean? Yeah. That has to be the most crazy thing that anybody's gone through. And people that go through that. And then so you decided to start a store, to occupy your time, to give your friends a job, to take care of people that were losing their jobs, to help your partner get out of a bad situation with a restaurant that's failing. Like, not like I'm anybody's hero, but it's a weird amount of people that run into a fire and you're like, yo, what the fuck are those people doing? Did they not see the fire? And it's like, yeah, but there's people in that fire. And sometimes it takes somebody successful that you've looked up to because they've always done things based on a moral. There's never been a money basis. It's always a moral basis. For them to look at you and be like, bro, keep doing what you're doing. It may not be, it's tough. And I'm like, bro, I know it's tough. But like, it's so rare to have somebody, anybody. It doesn't have to be a celebrity. It doesn't have to be anybody. See, like this year for all the negative, the people that came into my life, it couldn't have been better timing for my self-esteem because I was dead ready to give up on everything. And to then think like I'm going to start designing clothes, and I'm going to buy 100, salvage Mexican blankets, and I'm going to quilt them to Sherpa, and I'm going to cut them up in 2x2 squares, and I'm going to combine those squares with different parts of the quilt, and we're going to make like 15 jackets. And people are like, what's wrong? How does your brain work, bro? And I'm like, I don't know, but if you could tell me how to shut it the fuck off, I'm looking for the answer, Yeah. So we'll see, man. Like the whole LA thing could happen. California could happen. But again, it has to be at the right time for the real reasons with the right people. And I see the path now. Yeah. And I just need time to decide, am I going to take on, because at the end of the day, you can't do that from here. You got to make the decision, like either I'm going out and missing my family or they're coming out with me.
Yeah.
Because nobody's going to give me the time of day or respect me at all if I'm literally not out there being my sales rep, being my sales team, telling my story. It's a big commitment at 42 years old. I have the store, I have Big, I have the line with Ghost Drops. In 2023, I have a couple collabs coming out that I think people are going to really enjoy. BC is finally going to get a little bit of love directly to BC on some high-end shit through one retailer. Direct delivery in BC is changing the game. It's giving you that little bit of like, let me develop a personal relationship with you. I'm not a nameless, faceless company. I'm XYZ from Kelowna. I'm up the street. You want to come to my fucking, please come. Love that. Please. You want us to do 250 grams of hash just for your store? Yeah. HASHO says he'll do it, but we got to donate to charity. Yeah, fuck yeah, let's do it. You think we could get like $90 for that and do $20 a gram to Sarah's soldiers? Well, shit, yeah, that's only, so he's going to do a 104 bag for $70, but it's really 90, but it's going to charity bottle. There's only 200 pieces. Bro, we need to start creating shit like that.
Yeah.
Because I'm going to tell you something, as a hash maker, as the hash maker, whatever hash maker, the pussiest hash maker, I don't give a fuck what you want to call me. I'm going to tell you this. There's no money in hash. Not in Canada. Straight up.
It's in the brand. It's in the brand.
If you have a voice out there, if somebody gives a fuck who you are, if somehow in this twisted world, the internet gives a fuck who you are, listens to you at all, please use that voice for good. Please use that voice for good. And take it from me who used it for bad for so long. I was such a miserable fuck. I didn't understand the internet. I apologize, blah, blah, blah. I've done all that stuff. But here's the reality. If I can impress people enough with who I am and not lose sight of who I am, what hash can be is my microphone. Then the pre-rolls, the shatter, the diamonds, all that stuff, I can make sure is being made properly with love, done right. I can oversee every step of it because I made that shit first.
Yeah.
So I can promise you everything that ever comes out with under Big or under me is fair. It's fair. You're never being taken advantage of. You're never being played a fool. There's no investor money. There's nobody but HASHO being like, don't you fucking dare. I dare you to play my voice. I dare you to put me in a position in a fucking boardroom where you have to make me make a post on Instagram. This guy's a fraud. He's a fuckboy. He's a liar. Here's the proof.
Yeah, facts.
Don't make me do that. Your company's over. I know that sounds ignorant, blah, 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 but it doesn't sound ignorant. We're the ones that built this fucking industry. If guys like me,
it's a reputation.
Power, we're fucked.
Absolutely. And you worked hard to build the reputation, and you know how delicate it can be, but you know how powerful it is. So, I mean,
I promise you,
accordingly.
Big is like Smirnoff, right? We just want to make sure that everybody gets something they can afford on Friday night that they're going to be able to palate.
Yeah.
This is not my thesis statement. This is not the industry is not there where a company like Big, who is self-funded, has to carry everything, can go pay $3-4 a gram for input material. I'm sorry. When it gets there and I find that opportunity, Big will have it. But I won't do work that's not for charity or for Big that does not have the customer's best interest at heart. And if you're ever going to overpay for my shit, I'm going to look you dead in the fucking eyes and be like, you're giving me $20 extra a gram for Sarah Soldiers. So if there's 200 grams, we're going to donate X amount of money. I am terrible at math. Somebody's like, oh my God, how does he not know how to do that math? Fuck you. I don't know how to do that math. But whatever 200 times 20 is, I promise you, that's what's going to Sarah Soldiers. That's what's going to be shown in a receipt. It's going straight to the fucking, you're going to donate it. The retailer is going to donate it in front of you. We're going to put a post up about it. There's not a bit of fraud in me. I don't even want to hear that shit.
Yeah.
1184 Queen Street for anybody that wants to come and tell me whatever, or come see me. We're not going to let that play out. But I promise that if you ever get charged X amount of money for something, it's worth that. Or I've looked you in the face and been like, yo, it's worth 80, but you're paying 100 because you're donating to charity.
Yeah. So
shut the fuck up. It's once a year, twice a year. There's only 200 pieces. It's dumb fire. But I don't think any hash is worth $120. Like straight up, sorry. Like you're gonna have a hard time making me believe that a gram of hash, no matter how good it is, like $150. Like shut the fuck up.
Yeah, that's a tough sell, bro.
Different conversation. But
yeah. Where can the people? Where's the best place for people to find you, bro? Like reach you? Is it Instagram? Is it like how can people get at you when after they see this and they're like, I gotta.
Well, look, I guess Instagram, HASHO, EL_HASHO. Now here's the problem though, because I have so much going on, legitimately, fucking Instagram gets hard, man. You know?
Oh yeah.
3 jobs, 2 kids, 2 dogs, a wife. Somehow I have to live, eat, breathe in that time frame. So the one thing that I really want to get across to people is like, yo, there's real people on the end of this shit, okay? And we're getting sappy for a second, but I think everybody needs to hear this, okay? Only a sociopath, and there's been very few in the world in general that can truly say, like, I'm Jeffrey Dahmer's equivalent. Nothing you say or do will ever affect my psyche or my mood. Bro, listen, we have to stop putting so much of our energy into Instagram. And here's what I mean. It's okay if somebody doesn't respond to you. It's okay if you text your friend and they're having a bad day and they don't want to be responsible for jumping on every single text message or, hey, what's up? That's happening. Sometimes people are struggling. Sometimes people are struggling at home. Sometimes people are struggling mentally. Sometimes people are struggling at work. Sometimes people are struggling in every aspect of their life. And their phone is the one thing that's possibly going to set them the fuck off. Nobody deserves access to anybody just because they have an Instagram profile. And when things get overwhelming, we always tend to be like, why did that guy not respond to me? Why did I do it? Everybody does it. I think we need to go back and take a step back to where people really loved and believed in themselves. And I truly appreciate every single person that's ever reached out to me. And I'm truly sorry to anybody that has reached out and hasn't gotten me. And the truth to that is, if you could only imagine that at my height, I think my highest Instagram account, I've had 30 deleted, was like 12,000 people. Instagram in my time of having it has actually made me physically ill. There's been points where I did not know how to handle it. It was overwhelming to try and balance answering all these people, living with my life, my wife getting attention. Like, so to the people that feel slighted, don't. It's genuinely not like that. And I know people way cooler than me with way more following. Everybody around me is cooler than me. I'm lucky, but everybody around me is cooler than me. They have 100,000, 600,000 followers. Your worth and what somebody thinks of you is not dictated by how quick they answer or if they answer a fucking DM. Everybody's valuable, everybody's loved, and everybody struggles. Everybody struggles. So genuinely, I want everybody to know life is bigger than hash. It's bigger than Instagram. It's bigger than weed. It's bigger than who the coolest motherfucker on the block is right now. What's cool is treating people kindly and genuinely every single day, waking up and doing something that blesses your soul. You will find your calling, your career, your money, your success will instantly come the minute you let go of any pussy ass, fucking self-deprecating, or even worse, passive-aggressive anger towards others. Yo, I'm telling you, the only person that loses from a loser, the only person that loses when you hate somebody is you. You're putting energy into somebody that genuinely probably doesn't give a fuck about you. Don't take things like that.
Yeah.
Just be you and work towards being you. And I promise you, all that shit becomes white noise. That's so off topic, but like I've always just wanted to say that.
I think it's wise advice, and like, you know, I always let these interviews go naturally where they go, and if we skip over a question or two, we do. And you know, one of my questions is always, you know, advice for people, and I think that's really sound advice. Like the community is so fractured. There's so much judgment. There's so much mistrust from every angle, and for a whole different bunch of reasons for different groups. And I think that, you know, that advice is sound. I mean, it's where I've seen my success. I've seen my success through spreading positivity and lifting people up. Like I guarantee you that if I just went and talked a bunch of shit about people, you'd go nowhere fast. And you know, this community is so tight knit that you can only go so far like that. And then there's no couches left for you to crash on. There's no people left for you to talk to.
And it's so good.
It's the
measure of a man should be the amount of couches that are open to him in any city he's in.
100%.
Listen, I've said this the other day. It's funny because like me and my friends have some pretty deep conversations with each other. I'm so blessed to have the people around me that I do, because I can be so humble, and I can like go in my head and say the craziest shit out loud. Like, yo, I'm feeling like this. Like, I thought about myself in this light the other day. Am I crazy? Like, it's crazy what having kids does to you, right? You're like, yo, do I want to ever project the image of being this type of person? Or, and it's so important, like, to speak to yourself is so utterly important, because humility is it's almost a lost art, man. And to have a circle of people, especially that you can go to and be like, yo, I'm feeling like a degenerate because of this, or I'm feeling amazing about myself because of this, or am I doing this for the right reasons? It's crazy how you can regulate yourself and give yourself a self-check and have people around you to do the same thing, and how you create this circle of like goodness around you when you make that decision. You know, again, I lost track of what we were talking about. I suck.
No, man, I think you hit the nail on the head. Like we're just talking about the industry and how it's so fractured right now, and your message of kind of just gratitude and positivity and kindness is something that needs to be heard, because it's not a nice feeling right now. And there's a lot of there's a huge amount of scarcity mindset of have not and have less, and needing to take and hold and protect, and very much less of a collaborative mindset that was much more present back in the day when, you know, pack prices were higher. You can pretty much correlate collaboration and pack price. So yeah. I mean, like, I just think messaging and you know what you're putting out and the way you walk your talk, I think, you know, I think it's good. And you know, It's something people need to hear.
Well, same, like what I said to you when I first met you, like we need a voice, you know, like people are very free with their, I mean, man, the internet has made people so accessible. Like it's sad to say, but like if you went through my DMs, like you'd never be caught dead saying stuff like this to people or judging people or having the freedom of speech you have with people when you're an anonymous fucking internet account. If you went to my high school, you wouldn't say that shit to me, even if you fucking thought it, because we'd be fighting in the hallway, buddy. Somebody's fucking face is getting beat up. We're both getting suspended. Shit's not ending until a teacher rips me off you or you off me. So, but that's not the internet. The internet people can be like, your fucking wife's ugly, your kids are stupid, blah, blah, blah. They're so unlucky to have you as a father. Like, yo, I've heard it all. It means nothing because they have no idea how fucking lucky my kids are. But the thing is, like, it's just that access. And again, like meeting a guy like Addison this year, and it's so awesome to get to meet people that I genuinely want to hear every fucking word that they say. Like, I want to be a student of their fucking tone. I want to understand like where they're coming from. And you know, it's that old saying, like, I've never had anybody successful or happy hate on me. Only vibe with me. Only vibe with me. So, again, this year has been a blessing. And hopefully, like, you know, more good people, more good news in 2023.
100%, bro. I mean, we'll definitely
we need a voice. We need a Jameson that people will not fuck with, you know? Because they are very free to judge everybody else.
I'm not going anywhere. I don't like being fucked with. So I think
no. That's the first thing I said is like, yo, like there's always gonna be that guy that's like, look, I'm not the best hash maker in the world. That's not my shit. Like that's not my play. I love smoking hash, and like you should shut the fuck up because you're a loser. And the next time you say something negative, we are gonna ostracize you.
Yeah. You
should do that because I'm not saying you should do exactly what I said, but
no, I'm trying to build a network of people that, you know, understand that what I'm about and where I'm coming from. And then I align with individuals like yourself and Addison and create this global network of individuals who can get deals done really fast based on trust and based on where we came from. And, you know, I haven't seen a lot of corporate people move the way that we move because the bottom line is like, I worked in commercial real estate for 6 years. I didn't like make moves and be like, I wonder how the overall community of commercial real estate brokers is going to think of me. You know, it was like, get my money as quick as you can. In commercial real estate, there's a thing called scooping where you actively fuck over another broker. You let him do all the work touring around a guy, and then you grab the guy and you do the deal at the end. That's not a bad thing. That is fucking celebrated. You get taken out for dinner, drinks, and beers. And so it's being in a industry that is your community and your home where you're going, okay, well, every move I'm doing is documented and discussed and judged. And that makes you move differently and that makes you make decisions differently.
Bro, I love it. It's hard sometimes.
Bro,
like,
I love it.
For me, it's like, oh, wait, so hold on. The threat is that you think you're going to hold me to some like moral standard that I don't already hold myself to.
Yeah.
The easiest fucking thing in the world. Yeah. It's when people just get a little free and like, yo, you're ugly. Stop posting your face. And you're like, okay, bro.
But that's what the more hate, the more you know you're doing something successful. Like, I mean, my man, one of my closest friends, like T. Beazle, Little Lake Valley Seed Co., he can't keep his Solventless Viking page up because all that dude is doing is just spreading positivity and being successful. And so people that grew up around him, like he never says a negative thing on it. He never is doing anything. It's just his shit gets reported because people are jealous. So like,
bro, I can't for anybody that's upset with me because you posted something so sweet about me and I saw it and I didn't repost it. I cannot repost. I can't go live. I can't do it. I am in Instagram jail. Yeah. I have things pulled down for hate speech and violence when it's a picture of a puppy. Like, everything gets arbitrarily, and it's not arbitrary, somebody's reporting it. But at the end of the day, go ahead. Like, you don't understand. I think what people don't understand is that, like, my goal in life is to not be some famous hash maker. If anything, my success is based on one thing and one thing only. If I can transcend hash, if I can use whatever little fame or attention I got from all these years of work or respect or admiration or any of that, and I can turn Sarah's Soldiers into something that helps families that have to live at St. Mike's Hospital and watch their family members die and or live. Bro, how do you drive 2 hours to the hospital, 2 hours home, 2 hours to the 2 hours home? You have little kids. Like, yo, I lived a fucking nightmare. A real life fucking nightmare. If I can change that for somebody else, bro, have all the awards, take all the bitches, all the free whatever, all the gangster shit you want to talk. Cool, bro. I want a fucking wing of a hospital with my name on it. I want to see the 10 families I impacted. I want to see that husband who's like, oh my God, I get to stay here for free because this random guy named Mike is going to pay my stay because he works so hard for a foundation that has my back. Just because? That can't be real. No, homeboy, that's real. That's some real shit. Give a fuck about Louis Vuitton. And if you do, God bless you. I just don't. I'd rather be on my skateboard ruining my shoes. I don't want no fancy shoes. I don't need no fancy shoes. I'd rather have a fucking wing at a hospital with somebody else's name on it. I don't even give a fuck. I just want to pay the bill. When I donated back to St. Mike's, when Sarah got out of the hospital, I didn't donate money to St. Mike's. I went to local businesses that were either struggling or it was COVID, bro. So I went to them, Sugo Toronto. Who else did we use? The chicken place. I forget. You got me on the spot. We used 3 businesses. We gave them $2,200 or $2,700 each. And for a month, every Thursday, one business for 1 month, every Thursday would deliver 65 meals to 2 floors of St. Mike's hospitals, directly to the fucking nurses and everybody. And the only reason I could even make that happen was because I became family with them. For 7 months, they watched me cry, beg, pray to a God I don't know exists. I did everything that you never think you do. Threw up, caused a scene, grabbed a nurse. Like, bro, you do anything. I would have jumped on a fucking grenade. I'd have took a bullet. I'd have took a bullet for any of those nurses. Those are my family now. Like, I had to give back. Like, I don't care. As long as my bills are paid and my kids are good, I don't need more than that. I need to affect people's lives in a really, really, really positive way before I leave this earth. And if anybody thinks I'm making that up or lying, you just don't know me. You just haven't spent any time with me. Because that's been it from day one. Sarah Soldiers is 2009. We got it registered in 2014, but I've been doing shit since 2009. And I've been walking for the MS Walk since 2001 or 2000. Like, this isn't something that just happened.
Yeah. No, man. I mean, you walk your talk. You do your thing.
You have to, bro.
I got a tremendous amount of respect for you, Mike. I appreciate you taking the time. I appreciate you coming on. I'm super excited to see, what you got in store. I know you're working on a number of really, really.
I want to tell you, but it's almost like I know you got
something you can't talk about. Like, I know, I could tell, but like,
I want to, but like, look, Canada needs somebody to make no money, but push the culture forward. Yo, I'm your guy. I'm gonna make it happen. I promise you. Just let me not embarrass myself because, the reality is shit does fall through. Right. I just spent all that time in California to kind of fail in the public eye.
Mm-hmm.
Is it a failure? Is it a timing thing? And I've made my living off attributing a moment in time. I've captured moments in time. That's what I did well. And I made good hash, given the opportunity. But I promise there's something. I'm not just chilling. I don't know how to do that. I'm 42. I still skate. Like,
I know.
I promise. I want to limit my falling on my face in public to a couple times a year. You know, my ego can only take it a couple times a year.
You're out there, man. You're making moves. So I got nothing but respect. I'm stoked for the next.
Let's get the next melting of the heads going. I want to be a judge at the next melting of the heads.
Next melting of the heads is coming. Announcement coming probably this week. This week.
Go.
So stay tuned for dates.
Me and the egg will be on the flight. Let's go.
100%, bro. Well, yo, Hasho, I appreciate you coming on.
Yo.
I appreciate you taking the time. Thank you so much.
Much love, bro.
Anything you want to say?
Listen, I just want to say, like, sorry to half the people and fuck you to the other half. I don't know. You know? Listen, I'm out here through the fire. I'm never going to not credit myself for that. And anybody that is not their biggest fan, if you're not your biggest supporter, if you're not going to wake up every day knowing that if you're chasing a dream, that shit is going to be motherfucking hard. You have to wake up early and work harder than everybody else, or you're going to lose. So if you're that person, God, we need you. Get out there. We need you. And do it genuinely and try and uplift everybody around you. Because I promise you, being at the top of a hill or mountain or whatever the fuck the saying is, alone is boring, and it sucks to always be on defense. Okay? Bring people with you. Life is fucking tight. Throw some music on. Throw some fucking collabs. Let's go. Because it's so far in the future that you're going to build a living off hash. That you might as well make some friends and make an impact in the world. Because it's a fucking rough go, man. If you're thinking about coming to the legal side, get your checkbook ready. Get your fucking, oh, baby. And getting into a facility with the beard nets and hair nets and hand nets and fucking 6 layers of fucking.
The door scans and the door scans.
Whoa. This isn't even worth it. And then there's a QA lady that's like, did you touch that? Did you touch that spoon? I'm like, yeah, it's the spoon I collect the hash with. What do you mean it's going to touch the hash? Lady, what the fuck? How do you think I'm getting the hash out of this bag? Oh, nobody told me a spoon was going to touch the hash. I'm like, oh my God. Okay, we need to write this into the SOP. Like, you guys have no idea what happened at the beginning of this industry. Okay. Like, oh, it's going to touch parchment paper? Well, we have to write that in. Is the parchment paper fucking vegan friendly and fair trade? And I'm like, I don't know. It's from Costco.
Get it at Costco, yeah.
Kirkland, it's super good. Like, it's the parchment. They're like, I don't give a fuck what you think. What? Is it certified? And I'm a fucking tattooed hash. I don't fucking know. Oh, man. What do you mean? Certified by who?
Yeah, by me. Yeah, it works. It's certified.
It's certified on the street. That's hood certified. That shit's good.
Kirkland, baby. What up?
Straight up. They're like, well, sir, that's not good enough. And I'm like, well, I don't know what to tell you.
Bro. Oh, man.
It's been a long road.
They're going to come out in the years that come, or you're just going to be great about the shit show that was Canada.
It's been a road, bro. It's been a fucking road. And I'm honestly, I'm happy I walked it, and I'm happy I helped the people I helped, and shit, man, like, it's going to be cool to see what the future of this shit is, because the grows and everything is just getting better. The education's just getting better. Everything's just getting better.
Yeah. Yeah.
It is. I know it's annoying. Trust me, I've been here since before day one, literally before day one.
Yeah.
Like, it's only gotten better. And yes, that's like, oh, but the trench of shit we're living in is 6 inches less deep. Yeah. It's 6 inches less deep. And if you shut the fuck up and work for a fucking day, maybe it'll be an inch less deep every year until we're not standing in shit.
Yeah.
Or you can sit here and be a fucking... Shut up. Some people just need to be told to shut the fuck up. Like, we need to get that back. It's like, oh, you can't say that to that person. They own this place. Oh, they own this agency. Well, fuck them and their agency and fucking Bad Boy as a record label, a staff, and as a motherfucking crew. You know?
It's you got to build that platform of stability to be able to say shit like that. And you have that now, which is why.
But why not? But why not say that? Like, why not say fuck shitty people? Why do you support that guy?
Fuck shitty people, but they're like, I'm talking about if there's a group or an entity in, say, Canadian cannabis, and you're talking about you want to call them out. I mean, you got to have some solid ground to be standing on, and you built that. I got solid ground too, bro.
Where's the camera? I'm gonna pretend I'm on a podcast. So which camera do you want me to look at? You right there.
This shit, bro.
You right there. You know how hard it is to keep hearing "fuck you, Hasho. You're a piece of shit. Your fucking shit sucks. Why is it in a bag? Oh yeah, I decided that. Sorry, dickhead. Yeah, I'm the government. I take 45% tax. Fuck you. Like, you think that's what I wanted? I didn't grow it. I didn't package it. Decisions are made for fucking logistical reasons. At the time that it happened, for anybody that's wondering, at the time that it happened, do you know the shortage in shipping that was going on a year ago? You couldn't get jars, let alone teal Tiffany colored jars. They were basically like, bitch, I don't care if you have $8 million. What do you want me to do? Fucking lie to you and say we have them? And they're going to be there in 2 weeks, sir? No. So, like, what did I do? What would you have done if somebody was offering you a line with your name on it? You have to accept the situation you're in. They let me design my own logo. They put my fucking line out. Thank you, Ghost Drops. And fuck everybody that says you guys did anything wrong. I know the truth. You tried your hardest. We put it in a bag together. The government is the government. They decided to put like a luxury tax on this line. The people don't know, but don't let the words affect you from people that are attacking from an ignorant perspective. If they don't have the knowledge, let alone the information, how can you hate their opinion? You can hate their message. You can hate their delivery. They're just ignorant. You can't let that lose. You can't lose sleep over that. And I can't fight the battle with every individual. I can't tell tens of thousands of people like, no, man, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, though. You know?
No, I feel you, man. I think that I mean, the people who will watch stuff like this, they'll pick up on that, and that's enough that they need to hear to understand, you know, a situation that maybe they didn't understand as well before.
We tried, bro. Trust me, we tried. You think, even with Big, bro, you think it wouldn't be lower if I had a say over outdoor 45 to 150? Like, I mean, the reality is we're in a regulated market. Excise stamps, packaging, fucking overhead, staff, and then the government comes in and randomly says, oh, that's 27%?
But I mean,
$2.70 extra tax, $2.70.
It's reality, though, a little bit. Like, we look at the most mature market we can, Cali, and we go, okay, in the Bay, at the legal retail store, I'm walking out with a high quality gram of ultra premium fresh press at like $123 US.
Yeah.
Out of that rec store. If I get in the truck and I spend a couple $100 driving north, I can buy that same gram for $50. It's probably a little bit better. And so we have to understand, this industry is not being built for us. The coffee makers at the coffee farm, their coffee tastes better than the beans that we buy here. The coffee on the farm tastes better than the beans at the store.
Yep.
And we're used to coffee from the farm. And so we need to understand.
Making my own coffee.
you make your own coffee. It's different. That you're not going to get that experience, or it's going to be very hard to attain that experience and hold that judgment to what we can get to the retailer at this point. In California, they can do it, but you have to pay an arm and a leg. And so it's either
how do you get rosin when the hash maker has decided today is the day that I'm going to stir it, gram it, and within the next 48 to 72 hours, anybody that gets their hands on this is going to have the best experience. I get to give them the steak or the chicken or the salad or the croissant or the coffee the way I want to give it to them. That's been stripped from us. I have to play a fucking latitude longitude game of like, oh, it might sit in the warehouse 5 weeks. It might sit 3. It might sit 9. How the fuck do you want an artisanal chef to be like, oh, I promise this has the shelf life of 6 to 8 weeks? Like, how the fuck no?
Let's be now, right now.
Now. I need to serve it to you now. Yeah. And you have like a week to 2 of where it's at its finest. And then it's still great. But like, you know, stale bread is great. We can make croutons out of it and blah, blah, blah. But like, you know, in fairness, it's a living product.
It's a great comparison.
So it has a window of its best. It's a living thing. Hash is a living thing. It can't live forever. Neither can we. And then there's the aging topic and blah, blah, blah. It's a different style of hash, though. Even this hash ages. Live, I get it. I fucking get it. But live rosin is the sushi of our generation. It's the sushi of hash. A hash maker wants to plate it for you the way he wants to. So if you force us into a trend of fresh press or sashimi instead of sushi, the sushi is not traditional, you shouldn't add rice or whatever, all arguments to be made. I'm definitely not taking a side. What I'm saying is, in certain cultures, in certain places, that's stripped from us. We're kind of working against, like, I'm never allowed to fight, I'm only allowed to defend. That's a tough position to be in as somebody that thinks that they're an artist.
Yeah.
And on that note, I love you,
bro,
and your platform, and I'm going to eat something before I literally die.
Bro, thank you so much for coming on. I appreciate you. Don't forget to like and subscribe, everybody. Hope you enjoyed. More to come.